Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mormon Stories Podcast. I'm your host, John DeLynn. It is April 27th, 2026, and today we have one of my favorite types of Mormon Stories interviews. We're interviewing sisters. We're interviewing Meggan. Hey, Meggan.
Oh, hi.
And Julie. Hey, Julie.
Hey.
They're the O'Neill sisters. They were raised in Utah, and we're going to be talking about family dynamics in a Mormon context, and specifically what happens when one, let's just say, sibling in a Mormon family leaves their family system early, and then it's many, many years until a second sibling leaves. And, you know, what's it like to be kind of the black sheep of your Mormon family for leaving the church? What's it like to experience being the black sheep? What's it like to be a believing sibling now, identifying a beloved sibling now as a black sheep? And then how can reconciliation happen between siblings later on? In other words, how to have hope that if a family relationship is difficult now, how to have hope that things can get better. That's what today's episode is about as an overview from my perspective. We have Margie here, my co-host. Hey, Margie.
Hello.
We have Margie here with us as well. And some of you will recognize Meggan's face because Meggan is also, coincidentally, the host of a very popular, I want to say TikTok, but it's probably Instagram and YouTube as well, channel called Generally Unquotable. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yep. It's a long, long name.
Yeah.
But you did.
And Meggan, we've had lots of people request that I interview you over the years.
Oh.
And you and I talked a long time about when the right time was, and I think we hit it.
Yeah, I think so. We had to wait until we were inspired to get in here 2 years later.
Yeah, and it was really fun at the recent Thrive St. George to meet Julie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Y'all came as sisters to Thrive. So.
Yes. And it was such a good experience. I had a community there that I didn't even know I needed after leaving the Mormon church.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. Well, anything either of you want to say before we kind of jump in? I should also add, huge theme of today is being raised in a super large LDS or Mormon family. Tell us the number of children in your family, Meggan.
14 kids.
14 kids.
Do you want me to answer all the questions that people ask when I say that? Because I can do that too. There are 8 girls and 6 boys. I'm number 7. There are no twins, and there are 20 years almost to the day between the oldest and the youngest.
Wow.
And
That's
all from the same 2 parents. Yeah, those are all the questions.
Yeah.
And raised in Utah, right?
We moved to Utah when I was 10.
Okay.
So the majority of our upbringing was in Utah.
Yeah. So that's Mormonism at its, in some ways, highest and most intense level, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of old school. So, Meggan, anything you want to say by way of introduction? And I'll ask you the same thing, Julie, before we dig in. Anything else you want to add?
I am a little nervous to be here, obviously. I've listened to a lot of Mormon stories, and sitting here in this space, it's almost like I'm listening to the same thing I've been listening to in the past, but now it's me. But I think it's really important because just the way that Mormon stories has affected me has made me feel like I'm not alone, has given me the time to heal. I don't want to come on here and hurt anyone. What I want to do is come on here and continue to let people know that they're not alone.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, we're really acknowledging the courage that it takes to come on Mormon Stories. So thank you for that, Meggan. Julie, anything you want to add before we begin?
No, that was perfectly said.
Okay.
Thanks, Meggan.
All right. And where are you in the birth order?
Number 10 of 14.
Okay.
In the middle somewhere.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm number 7.
7 and 10.
7
Yeah.
and 10.
Yeah, you're both middles.
Yeah.
At 7 and 10.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yep.
Okay. Margie, anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's begin. So I always like to start with your parents. And I know that your parents aren't totally traditionally Mormon pioneer upbringing. So maybe Meggan will have you start. Tell us about your parents' Mormon stories, at a high level.
Yeah. So our mom was raised Mormon, but neither of our parents talk a lot about their upbringings. I don't know why, they just didn't. And so our mom was raised Mormon, but I think her parents were semi-active, less active for a while, and then got more active. And she's the oldest. And our dad is a convert. So our parents met when they were 14.
Where was your mom raised?
In Vegas. They were both raised in Las Vegas.
Both parents, okay.
Yeah. So they met when they were 14. My mom was a member, my dad wasn't. And they fell in love at 14. They never dated anyone but each other. And he joined the church, I think, about the time they graduated from high school. And they waited 2 years maybe to have kids, and then started having kids. And he was in the Air Force. She was a stay-at-home mom. So, yeah.
So you don't know if your dad served a mission? Sounds like he didn't serve a mission.
No, and I asked my mom about that when I was younger, because it was confusing to me. And she said that back then, men were called, they didn't all sign up. So yeah, that was the reasoning I was given, but he didn't serve a mission.
Any idea around what year your parents were married?
1970, I think.
And was it in a temple or?
Yeah, so they were in Vegas, but they got married in the St. George Temple. And I do know that they did that all in one day. Like they went and did their endowment and then got married. And it was this big marathon thing because they had to drive up and go through the St. George Temple. And
yeah, that's an intense day.
Yeah.
And just a time date check, is your oldest sibling around 55 years old? Does that sound right?
She's 10 years older than me. So because I am right in the middle, my oldest sibling is 10 years older and my youngest sibling is 10 years younger.
So how old would that be for your oldest sibling?
Yeah, 55.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got the timeline going.
Yep.
So your parents were, in my brain, I like to have a timeline. So your parents were married in the temple around a year after I was born. So that's interesting to get straight in my mind. And a year before Margie was born. So, okay. All right. So so their Mormon story is going to track with our Mormon stories a little bit. Okay. So, yeah, what are your earliest memories of growing up in a Mormon family? And maybe, Julie, I'll let you start and then go back to Meggan. Yeah.
I will say I always liked it because there was always something going on. There was always someone that you could play with or go do something fun with. But I always just felt like, not that I was cast to the side, but it was really easy to just be quiet and unseen and unheard, because with that much going on, and the sister that's a little older than me, she's very loud. And so I was like, well, to compensate for that, I just have to be really quiet and perfect. I was perfect, I'm sure of it, for so many years. But that's kind of how I felt. So it was fun, but it was also just really easy to just kind of be unnoticed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meggan?
Yeah, I had a lot of similar feelings. I got more noticed because I didn't learn how to be as quiet as Julie. And I grew up with 2 brothers and then me and then a brother. So although I have 7 sisters, I grew up with my brothers. And so it was louder and we did things that we weren't supposed to do. But I did always have a friend. We were a very insular family. And until I was 10, we lived in Colorado. So being Mormon, we were set apart. And so I spent a ton of time with my brothers. And, we were always outside and we had a wood burning stove. So we were building things out of all of the wood that was outside waiting to be burned and riding bikes. And it was really fun when I was with my siblings. Church, at the time when we lived in Colorado, our dad was the branch president. So he wasn't only the rule maker in our family, but also at church. So we sat on the front row in our tiny little phase 1 building, and he sat right in front of us. And we were all lined up, and if anybody made a peep, he would snap his fingers.
Wait, he's on the stand.
Well, there is no stand because it's a phase 1 building. So it was, we would go early, we would set up the chairs, and there was just a little podium, and then there were just chairs.
Yep.
Okay.
So he's
got it.
Not sitting that far away from us, and he would just snap his fingers, and
He's facing you.
Yeah, if anybody had been watching, I'm sure they could see us all just
Keep you in check with the snap.
Straighten up.
line up and
I mean, yeah, like I started attending an LDS church in Katy in like a house. And I'm just trying to imagine the bishop sitting in front of us and like snapping his fingers at his family and, sternly pointing at his family in the front row.
Wow.
that finger snap, and he can do it. It's loud. It seemed loud when I was a kid.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, branch president is like a bishop, a Mormon bishop, a head of a congregation, but for a smaller unit.
Yeah.
So how did Mormon culture manifest in your family's day-to-day, week-to-week living? In what ways was your family Mormon at home when you were home as a kid?
Yeah, we were very, very Mormon. There is no way to separate Mormonism from our family culture. So we all got up before anyone left the house. So if I had an older sibling who had to leave the house at 6 a.m., the entire family was up and doing scripture study at 5 a.m.
Wow.
And every day, I do not ever remember that not happening. We were very regimented, and we wore garment-friendly clothes always from the day we were born. Just no tank tops, nothing, even as a small child. And if we were being mean to a sibling, a primary song came out or if we weren't having a good day, it was turn that frown upside down. And there was no separation. So scripture names and scripture stories, that was what we did. We had family prayer in the morning. At dinner, we had this, huge table that my dad had built. And at the end of the meal, we sat and we always went in turns, someone, whose turn is it to read scripture tonight at the end of dinner? So then someone would read a scripture and we would all discuss it, and we all had to sit until my dad stood up. And then we had family prayer at night. So it was very integrated. We never missed family home evening. Never. We always had it. And we had a little chart and someone gave the prayer and did the song and all of those things. So I knew about Nephi and Laman and Lemuel before I knew how to tie my shoe or read. I mean, those things came before other learning.
Julie, what were some of the don'ts, things you couldn't do in your Mormon family growing up that you remember?
So where?
Okay.
Not even on accident. You can't even say like the knockoff swear words, because I really loved saying flippin', and I got in trouble for that one. So then I had to keep saying it, but just not in front of my parents.
We couldn't say but.
We couldn't, yeah.
So I would say butler. Call my siblings a butler.
Creative. Yeah. Creative there.
Yeah, we couldn't, I got caught wearing lipstick one time when I was 14 or 15, and that had to come off immediately. I'd been wearing it for a year, and then I couldn't wear it anymore. So there was that, the modest clothing. So I couldn't wear the tank, but I still would. Then I would just take off the jacket when I got to school or whatever it was. The overalls, cinch them up when you get home, put them back down. Some of the other things we could not do.
What about beverages?
Water was a good choice.
But we couldn't have caffeine. I remember because we lived in Colorado, right? So we were the minority being Mormon. And I would have friends who would drink Pepsi, and I was afraid of it. And actually, we went over to a friend's house down the street one time, me and a younger sister who wasn't Julie, a different sister, and they served iced tea. And I was torn because I was a people pleaser, so I wanted to accept it and be polite, but I knew we weren't supposed to have it. So I just said I wasn't thirsty, and then my little sister drank some, and I honestly felt afraid for her. Like Satan is coming through this tea, which is a totally normal experience for the people we were with. But then we went home and I ratted her out. Told the parents that she drank tea.
You just reminded me of a story. So I'm like in fifth grade. I'm playing basketball at my elementary school outside. And one of the kids I'm playing with had one of those Gatorade bottles, the orange Gatorade bottles. And so I went and took a swig of it, but it was tea, and it wasn't. And I spit it out. As soon as I tasted it, I'm like, this doesn't taste like Gatorade, and I spit it out.
Yep.
Because in Texas, you drink sun tea all the time.
Yeah.
So that was my one accidental consumption of tea.
Yes.
Anyway, no tea or coffee, no Pepsi. Okay.
No caffeine.
Okay. At all.
Yes. Another thing that we were not allowed to do was change into comfy clothes after church. So we
On
had,
Sunday.
it was like breakfast, the dress comes on, even if church isn't till 1 or 2. And then you cannot take your dress off until pajamas come on. So
Yeah. So you better believe pajamas were happening at 4 p.m.
I would just sneak them on underneath my dress. So I still had my dress on, but then the jammies were on underneath because it's hard. It's hard to do stuff in a dress. You can't jump on the trampoline.
Right.
I guess we
but
couldn't
we
do
weren't
that
supposed
on
to
a
do
Sunday.
that anyway.
So no playing outside on Sunday.
We could go on walks and we could read scriptures. There were every once in a while we'd be able to watch a cartoon, but it was always religious themed. But because there were so many of us, we didn't have a lot of money. So we didn't have living scriptures. That was very fancy. We had like this old cartoon of the Easter story that I watched many times. Yeah.
How about media in general?
We did
movies,
well, so we didn't
songs.
have TV, right? Because you had to pay for cable or have like a satellite dish. We didn't have that. So we did watch movies. But they were always, it was as a family. We didn't, I didn't go rent a movie and bring it home. It was like Dad got a movie and we're all watching it together on Friday night.
So we could watch PG movies. And if it was a PG-13, as far as I remember, our parents would have to watch it first before we were allowed to.
Did you ever go to the movies? Ever?
I saw Willow in the theater.
Just like one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Home Alone, do you remember that?
We saw that in the theater?
We did. Home Alone 1 and 2 we saw in the theater. So we were...
Do you remember wanting to see movies in the theater, not being allowed to?
I wanted to, because we never had any money. And so I would try to earn up money, but it was hard to do. You get like a nickel for ironing a shirt. So when I did earn it, I knew it was a finite resource. So then I would just hoard it. So I earned, when we lived in Colorado, I earned $1.50, and it took a long time. So that I was just saving it. And when we moved to Utah, all of my friends, there was this outdoor pool they would go to. And I really wanted to go, but I couldn't go because we couldn't pay for it. And I was going to use my $1.50 on it that I'd saved for so long. And then one of my brothers convinced me to buy this little bird where you would wind it up and it had a rubber band on it. And then you could let it go and it would fly. And this $1.50 that I'd saved for years, I spent it on that bird, and I had some major regrets because then my friends were going to movies and they were going to the outdoor pool, and the outdoor pool was at the park down the street from our house. So I would walk down and I would watch them swim at the outdoor pool, and I just wanted to be there.
Yeah.
What about journal keeping?
Yes. We were both very righteous at keeping journals. Meggan was actually the one that convinced me that I needed to start doing that.
I can see
So
that.
I think I was 8. I have journals from when I was 8 years old, maybe younger. Like when the handwriting is so bad, I cannot read it.
Because I started mine when I was 10. I went to what was it called before? Mary Miss? Was that when you were 10? I went to an activity and they had us, it was a daddy-daughter activity, which actually was terrifying because I was terrified of my dad. But I had to go to this activity with him. And so I went and, they're taking pictures of us. And I still have that picture, I think, in my very first journal. But that's when they talked about journal writing. And so I went home that day and I was going to follow that rule and write that journal. And I wrote a journal every day from that day until I got married. So for 10 years.
Wow.
I was not as righteous as Meggan. I did keep it very well, but it wasn't like every day. She beat me on that.
What about food? What about food storage?
Oh,
Yes.
we definitely had. So we grew a garden and we had tons of food storage. When we moved in Brigham City. Oh yeah, we did. So there was a room in the basement that was just lined with shelves in every house that we lived in, actually, now that I think about it, even in Colorado. And yeah, we had the buckets of wheat, the many, many buckets of wheat. And we didn't just, because there were so many of us, my parents had to be very careful about their money. And so we didn't just have the wheat, we ate the wheat. My mom did a hot breakfast every day. And a lot of times it would be oatmeal from these huge bags of oats or cracked wheat.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my mom made bread from the cracked wheat.
Oh yeah,
in
we
the
had
food
one of
storage.
those old wooden grinders for the wheat.
Yeah,
And so you put it in the top, and then the little tray comes out at the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's weird. I grew up in Katy, Texas, and I had the same, so much of the same upbringing.
It's
Yeah.
interesting because listening to her, I think by the time I started having memories, my parents had a little bit more money. Because we did have the oatmeal, I remember that, but we had like cinnamon rolls, pancakes, waffles, Swedish pancakes. Like
some
my
more
mom-
variety.
We had Swedish
and more-
pancakes.
Yes. Oh, they were my favorite. I knew I was not going to go to school hungry on that day.
Yeah,
Interesting.
the
yeah.
oatmeal needed a lot of brown sugar. Okay.
So you could use sugar. Some Mormon families don't allow sugar.
We
Yeah.
were raised on sugar.
Yeah, we
Okay.
were
Yeah.
Sugar was
definitely
okay.
raised on sugar.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to bring up your shared room situation. I think this idea in big families of, privacy where, or lack thereof. Do you want to talk about your shared room and how many children tended to share a room?
Yeah. I say, Megan, you take that one because you have more of the memories on
Yeah,
that.
because I was a little older. So when we lived in Colorado, our youngest brother hadn't been born yet, but there were 13 of us, and we lived in a very small house. And
How many rooms?
I'm trying to
About
remember.
Approximately.
There were 3 upstairs, and there was only one full bathroom in that entire house for 15 people.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And and then downstairs was our parents' bedroom and another bedroom at the end of the hall where the boys
So maybe
were.
5 bedrooms.
Yeah,
for
5
14
bedrooms.
people. Mm-hmm. That's 3 per bedroom-ish.
Well, there were 5 in our bedroom. So my dad built bunk beds, and there were 2 bunk beds in that room, but 5 kids. So there were 2 kids that were always sharing a bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would, and sometimes it would be Julie and I, but sometimes she'd be in a different bed, and we didn't really have assigned beds. But yeah, so we were packed in there, and getting ready for Sunday. My dad got us a membership at the local pool, like a rec center pool. And on Saturday night, we all went to the pool, but my mom didn't go.
Was
And
that
we would
for showering?
Yes, we would swim for an hour, and then we would all shower because
I did
otherwise.
not know this was on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I remember going.
Well, remember, Saturday is
Yes.
a special
Oh,
day.
I do remember
it's the
that
day
song.
we get ready for
Yep.
Sunday.
But this was really strategic because it allowed for that barrier of one bathroom, right? Is that why? It was
Yes.
to allow for people to shower in a more efficient kind of
Yep.
way.
Yes, it was a cost-saving measure and time, because there were times when we didn't go, but we were pretty religious about going to the pool to shower. But when we didn't, there was a tub that was filled up, and then we just all took turns getting in it. And if you weren't first, the water was not clear anymore by the time you got in.
Oh, dear.
So now I'm dying to know if your mom worked outside the home, because how in the world is a single income going to support 16 people?
Well, so she did paper out. I remember her doing a paper out real early in the morning when we lived in Colorado. And she's a seamstress. And so she would pick up little side jobs. A lot of times it was reupholstering the insides of people's vehicles. So she was doing little things. She would babysit sometimes. But for the most part, she stayed at home and cooked and
Well, I was trying to think. So 14 children, the workload of 14. So how would you describe your family culture around work as children?
That was one thing I always liked coming from a big family, is that I got work ethic from a very young age, because we had to. You know, it was like I was super young and vacuuming the whole floor, probably 5 years old, and doing dishes when they were still, running down my armpit. So I liked that fact because it helped me become independent at a very young age.
Well, and I think we had to become independent, because there is really no way for 2 parents, one of which, our dad worked full time, sometimes a little bit more. There's really no way for 2 parents to manage that amount of children and give everyone the time they need to not be super independent. It was partially we had to clean because our parents needed us to be the little worker bees, but we also just had to be independent because a lot of times we were totally unsupervised.
Yeah, right.
And you are the oldest daughter, is that right?
No,
Okay.
No,
Sorry, I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah, it's hard. There are a lot of us.
How many daughters ahead of you?
There are 8 girls and 6 boys, but I grew up with my brothers. So
Right,
2
okay,
boys, me, and then a boy.
That's why I had that. So how many sisters older than you? You got
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But enough older that I didn't really spend a lot of time. Yeah, 3. I didn't spend a lot of time with them as a friend playing. And
Yeah, they're like cohorts in a family this size,
Yes.
cohorts of kids.
yes.
So by the time your next oldest sister left home, how many children were still in the home while you were the oldest sister living in the home? Does that make sense?
Oh.
I mean, if you're 7th, there would have been 6.
I mean, there
would
were
have been 7
7
under
younger
you
than me.
While
Yes.
you were at one point, you were the oldest sister of 7 living in the home. At some
Of
point.
8. I mean, I would have been, so 7 years. Yes. When we moved from Brigham City to Payson halfway through my junior year of high school, and I was the oldest.
Okay, right.
At home.
What I'm getting at is this idea of children almost being a parent.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you experience that?
Yeah. Well, and I think so. Our parents were there to manage the home, cleaning and cooking, and teaching us the gospel. Okay, reading the scriptures and doing all of those things, but they were not there emotionally for us. They were there to manage us. So any emotional help that we got was from each other. So when we shared a room when we were little and we'd go into the room at night, I was the oldest one in that room because the 2 brothers around me were in a separate room downstairs. They were in the room downstairs. And so it was my job to get everyone settled in for the night. And Julie remembers being afraid. And so I would click my fingernails against the wall and I would talk about these horses that were galloping. And it was this calming ritual that I had for myself, because I was also terrified of the dark, and the other siblings in there to get us quieted down. We had a family prayer and then we were sent off on our separate ways, and we were in charge of regulating ourselves at night and getting to sleep, because even if I didn't feel well and I got up in the night, I was too afraid to go disturb mostly Dad and get in trouble for being up in the night.
Don't disturb them. You'd had to just figure it out on your own.
Mm-hmm. Actually, one time, one of our sisters fell off the top bunk and hit her chin on the toy box because it was in between the bunk beds and was bleeding a ton. And she just got back into bed and just went to sleep because you didn't disturb Mom and Dad.
That leads me to want to learn a little bit about family culture. Like, patriarchy is one way to describe it, but there's family proclamation stuff. What was Daddy's role? What was Mommy's role? What were the kids' role? How was communication? How were rules enforced? And in what ways did priesthood and lack of priesthood permeate the structure and cultural dynamics of your family? It's a big question.
That is. I can start with the priesthood thing, because I remember, I think it was monthly, we would do the PPIs, priesthood. What does that stand
Personal
Yeah.
priesthood interview.
Yes.
Tell us what that is.
And so we would go from oldest to youngest. My dad would bring us in the room, just us. And I think it was supposed to be a nice time for him to get to know us because there were so many of us. But I think we were all very scared. I would just be dreading it because the power of discernment, it's he's going to know that I had a naughty thought or whatever, as a child. So I would just dread it the whole day until I could finally just get it over with and be on my way. So it was, the priesthood was everything.
That was monthly, a monthly kind of worthiness interview?
Yeah.
Almost? Okay.
Yep. But I think it was supposed to be a good thing. But as far as I know, we were all just very scared of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
you can speak for yourself.
Core memory of lying to my dad during one of those because he asked me where I was at in my scripture reading. And I didn't know. I read scriptures sometimes on my own. We always did it as a family, but, I was 7 or 8. And so the first book I remembered, I said it out oh, I'm an ether. And then in my mind, I was like, I think that's at the end. I'm like, so I'll be starting over soon. And then later I went and looked and I was like, oh no, he's going to know, it was terrifying. It was terrifying.
What about was there spanking? Was there yelling?
Mm-hmm.
What about discipline?
So there was spanking. I don't know by the time Julie was,
her experience is probably going to be different than mine. I will say that.
Yeah.
So the brother that's young, one of the brothers that's younger than me had a really hard time conforming. And so I got looped in with him a lot. We did get spanked a lot, but he got a lot worse punishments than I did because I learned to hide and to not always say the things I was thinking and, lie about the scripture reading. But the rules were very firm. There was not a gray area. And if we didn't follow them, and Dad found out, then we were in trouble. And it was hard because at a certain point, he kind of would stop spanking, but the fear was already there. It was already there. And so having a conversation, we didn't have a conversation with him. Having a lecture from him was just as scary, if not worse, than being hit because I didn't know how to answer. I didn't know what he wanted me to say, and it didn't always seem like it was the same. And so one of my core memories is my brothers and I were in a room, and my brother, just older than me, had just come back from scout camp, and he was educating me and one of my other brothers about blue darts, something we'd never heard of before.
Tell our audience what a blue dart is. I know what it is.
So it's when you fart and you light it on fire. And of course, we knew we weren't supposed to think farts were funny probably, but we were kids. And so he was telling us about this and he learned about it at scout camp, and we were laughing so hard and making him just tell us about it over and over. And halfway through this glorious childhood time, our dad walked in, and the minute he opened the door, silence. You could drop a pin in that room. And he says, "What were you guys talking about?" And we're just looking at each other like, who's going to tell him? Because 5 seconds ago, this seemed really fun, and it just got a lot not fun. And so then one of my brothers says, "Barney?" And I'm looking at him like, the purple dinosaur, he's never going to believe this. And he just keeps looking at us. He doesn't say anything, my dad. And so then my other brother says, "Blue darts?" And he goes, "Is that appropriate?" And then, that was the time we knew, okay, we might have thought this was fun, but now we know it's not.
Yeah.
I don't remember learning about blue darts until the MTC, the Mission Training Center. And there were elders in their garments who demonstrated to me what a blue dart was in the MTC. So
You didn't have the right scout camp, apparently.
We did other things, but it was in the MTC in garments that I learned about blue darts.
Funny.
Yeah, that's a true story.
I have a quick question with regard to your parents. Did your home feel different when your dad wasn't around? Did you experience, I'm just kind of curious with his presence, if some of that fear was brought with his presence. Did you feel it all the time, regardless of whether he was there or not? Did your mom have a bit of a different way of showing up in the house and showing up in your lives? How would you describe? I'm trying to get a sense for if the fear was omnipresent, or were there times when you could relax a little?
Yeah, I think we have different experiences with this as well, because my mom was a safe place for me. And so if my dad wasn't home, then it was okay. If I made a mistake or broke something or broke a rule, my mom did not rat me out. So as long as he wasn't home, I felt okay. But the moment he was there, I was very tense the whole time.
Yeah, and when I think back on my childhood, if I give it one overarching feeling, it's fear. It's fear. And because sometimes if my mom knew something I'd done, she'd tell my dad, and sometimes she wouldn't. So I was always guessing, is this going to make it back to dad? And 4 hours from now, am I going to get a punishment for this or not? Mm-hmm. So I was always on edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when he was the branch president, I turned 8 during that time. So he was the one who did the interview for my baptism. So he came home from work one day and said, you need to go wait in your room for me. So then I was scanning the day, the week. What have I done? What's going to happen? What is he going to say when he comes in here? What's my story going to be? And then he sat down and he said, do you know what it means to be baptized? And because I was so afraid, because I didn't know that's what he was going to talk about, I wasn't prepared to answer him. And so then he's looking at me with this expectation, and I'm supposed to be recalling my gospel knowledge, but I was just afraid. I was in trauma. I was terrified. I didn't know what to say. So it was a hard interview because I was expecting a lecture or a spanking, and instead he was asking me gospel questions.
Yeah.
I mean, it just sounds like your dad made you all afraid constantly. And sometimes that's just someone's personality. Sometimes it's what they learned from their dad or mom. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the way they perceive their God is, that their God is a fear of their God is a God of punishment and of fear. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you would even know why your dad chose to parent that way, but also it's kind of old school parenting.
Mm-hmm. Did you mention he was in the military?
He was, yeah. He was in the Air Force until he got out before I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And he didn't talk about his childhood a lot, but I think it was very tumultuous. His parents separated when he was a teenager, and his mom had a lot of boyfriends coming and going, and his younger sister lived with his dad, and yeah.
So it's possible part of it was he was wanting to have his children have a better experience than what he and his siblings had had. Yeah. And strictness might have been a way to help make sure y'all had a better life.
I think the church, because he joined when he was, 17 or 18, I think that gave him this level of structure that he had craved as a child. And that's what he presented to us, was the structure of the church, the very black and white thinking, the very specific rules. Because in the 80s and 90s, 80s especially, the church was the Bruce R. McConkie church, and it was very structured.
Yeah, and strict.
It sounds like to me, the more layers we have of like reinforcing a desire for structure. It sounds like childhood. Mm-hmm. It sounds like the church came into his life, introduced it, and he really was like, and it also sounds like, military, also another reinforcer of like a lot of obedience and structure there, and a great need. I would imagine a great need with 14 children as well. It's just like, it seems like all those layers are like amplifiers to.
And then add to that, and I don't know if this is just a church culture, but you want everyone to think you're perfect.
Oh, right.
That the family dynamic is perfect. So how do you have perfect children at church? You have to be very strict. And obedience has to be something that's in that, right? And fear sometimes gets meshed into all of that. So I think we did look very perfect.
Yes,
at church.
That's so good. I feel like that you brought that up. And I think that's true for the average family, but for a branch president's family or kind of the higher up you go, I think that's another amplifier, right? So you just have so many,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're taught as Mormons that obedience is the first law of heaven. And so families often are governed that way as well. Yeah, and sometimes the most hardcore, strict Mormons I've ever met had a tumultuous childhood or teenage experience. Even sometimes they made a lot of, quote, mistakes based on Mormon moral standards. And so they're harsh and strict with their kids, partly because of what they chose or they experienced when they were younger.
Yeah.
Well, so our dad would tell us, like, he tried out swearing once as a teenager and it just didn't sit right. And so then he didn't do it again. And it was almost like the Joseph Smith, denying alcohol story. Like to me, my dad was God in our household.
Yeah,
so
right.
I had the Mormon God who I compared to the God in my house, and there were rules and there was the following of the rules. And that was supposed to bring love. And so that's what I thought love was as a kid, was obedience.
Yeah.
That is something.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just talk quickly about what you two meant to each other as siblings before, Meggan, we start talking about your kind of testimony faith journey.
Sure.
What key core memories do each of you have about what the other meant to you? I'll start with you, Meggan, because you're older.
So when I went through my teenage years, it was hard because I wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to be loved, but it was hard to follow the rules because we couldn't steady date. We couldn't, if I had a guy I really liked, I could go on a date with him, but then my dad had the A, B, C, D. And I think he added E later rule where if I went with guy A, then I had to go on a date with B, C, D, and E before I could go on a date with guy A again. But that was
to prevent sex, right? I mean, let's just be honest.
Yeah. To prevent getting in trouble before the boy goes on his mission. Yeah. And so but it wasn't just dating. It was like I had friends and we lived in Brigham City. So all of my friends were members. And for fun, we played board games and ate Twizzlers. So we weren't but I had friends who turned 16 before me and they had boy-girl parties that were in the basement. One of my friends, it was in the basement of a bank. Her parents were there and there were literally board games all over and snacks. And I was not supposed to go because I wasn't 16 yet. So of course I went, told my dad I was doing something else and then went. And that tension of, I really want to do all the right things, but also I just want to hang out with my friends. So once Julie was coming along, I made a point to be that buffer for her. Like, if you want to go hang out with your friends, just tell mom and dad you're going to be with me. And then you can go out with the boys. You can do the things that I didn't get to do. And I will be that person who will cover for you. Because that's what I wanted, but I didn't get it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with just hanging out with people.
What's your perspective on that, Julie?
Yes. I always wanted a surprise birthday party. And for my 16th party, Meggan threw me a huge surprise party, invited all of my friends. And she was just doing stuff like that for me all the time so that I didn't have to have the experiences that she had.
Wow, that is really something.
Yeah.
So
really.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's sort of like you. So how old would you have been if you were throwing a birthday party for her?
I'm 4 years older. So,
okay.
20.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like by then that signals that you are creating a place of safety and kind of softness. You're recognizing somewhere that something's lacking and trying to provide it. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yep. So she gave it to me. There was even one time on a Friday night, she called me up. She was like, hey, you're coming to my house. I was like, I am. And she was like, and you're going to bring your friend, your boyfriend, whoever it is you want to bring, and you're going to come to my house tonight. It's like, okay. So she did stuff like that for me all the time. And I didn't know how much I appreciated it until older. Because I was still, in the tumultuous of everything and a teenager.
Right.
So in your words, Julie, what did older sister Meggan mean to you growing up?
She was my friend. She was a safe person. We did talk about things together that I'd never had anyone else to talk about things with. Even just like kissing a boy, like, I admitted that I kissed a boy. I could tell her that, even though she was like, don't do that. that'll make your life at home really hard. Don't do it. But she still supported me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah. I wanted her to have those experiences at the same time. I was like, if she can be better than me, she will be more loved than me.
Better than you? What do you mean?
Better, like not kissing boys.
More righteous?
If she,
more
yes.
righteous.
If she was more righteous than me, she would be more, things would be easier. She would be more loved. And I wanted that for her.
You wanted her to be more loved than you felt loved.
Yeah.
And more safe than you felt safe.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a sister between you or multiple sisters between you?
One sister between us.
Did you feel that same thing, Meggan, for that middle sister?
No, that sister and I didn't get along.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, we shared a room once for a very short amount of time and it didn't work out.
Sometimes the closer you are, the harder it is to get along.
Yeah, our personalities just really were not similar at all in a way that we meshed like that.
Okay. So
She
Julie,
let
go ahead.
I was going to say, Meggan let the spirit of contention in her heart with that sister.
I did. I did.
Can I ask a question around coping a little bit? It sounds like you grew up in a climate of feeling a lot of fear and anxiety, right? And I am thinking, didn't you mention for you that you became perfectionistic and kind of your attempt to stay safe, right, was to please? Is that right?
Yes.
Here's my question. How did you cope with that? How?
You mean internal distress?
Yes,
emotion?
like this constant state of just sort of anxiety and walking in fear. What emerged in you to try to keep you safe?
I have lots of memories of just being alone in my bedroom because in my bedroom it was safe. We were not allowed to close the door. It had to stay open, so you still couldn't have like privacy as a teenager, but I was in there a lot, like journaling. I did love music, and so I played the piano a lot, and I practiced a lot because I was going to be perfect. I was going to be the best, you know? And then when I was 15, I started playing the guitar. I threw some bagpipes in there, and all this could just be alone in my bedroom. That was safe.
Yeah.
So that's how I coped with a lot of it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yes, and I studied. I was a very good student. And because also, if I was at school and I was doing the Constitution Bowl, I could stay after a little bit. And
yes.
Constitution Bowl.
Yeah.
That's so Mormon.
Yeah, right. I hadn't said that name in years. Oh, that's way from junior high.
I don't know what that is. What is
It's like, can you recite the preamble? What's the First Amendment to the Constitution? What's the Second Amendment to the Constitution, right?
Yeah. No, that's what it was. But then I played the violin and I was in choir. But most of the way that I dealt with it was I knew that if I got straight A's, I could get a scholarship to college and then I could get married. And if I got married, my parents would love me because then...
Temple married.
Yeah, temple married. Yes, of course. That's a given. If I got temple married and I had a priesthood holder and had kids, then all the things that were getting me in trouble, hanging out with boys, I mean, that was all the things. Then that wouldn't be an issue.
That was the umbrella.
That was all the things.
That made you beyond love was hanging out with
yes.
boys.
And wanting to, not just doing it, but I wanted to do it. Yeah. And so I, graduated second in my class and had to speak at graduation.
You were salutatorian.
Yeah.
This is in Utah, right?
Yeah, in Payson.
Payson, okay.
Yeah. Had to speak at graduation. I was like, this is what I get for this. I worked hard. Now I have to stand up in front of all these people and say, anyway, yeah. So I had to speak at graduation and then got a presidential scholarship to Rick's College, which is the only school I applied at. But I was like,
why not BYU Provo?
No, two of my older sisters had gone to Rick's and it just, yeah. Seemed, you know what? Also, I think it was further away from home.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Payson, how close is Payson to Provo?
20 minutes. Yeah. Close.
But you probably academically could have gotten into BYU Provo.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah. I only applied at Rick's. I didn't apply anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's transition, Meggan, to your kind of testimony development, spiritual development, and sense of worthiness in high school
Okay.
prior to leaving home.
Yeah, that's difficult.
You said you were boy crazy.
I was. And I mean, that started before high school, but I was always towing the line. And
In what way? What do you mean?
lying to hang out with boys, but I was not going to have sex with somebody. And honestly, I went and confessed to the bishop because I let a boy touch my bare back when we kissed when I was a senior in high school.
Oh.
Yeah. Really dicey behavior. But I did. I went and confessed.
So you were keeping the rules.
I was.
The law of chastity rules in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. But I also did not know how to say no. So even when he did that, I didn't want him to do it because I knew it was like bad. I knew it was going over the line, but I didn't know how to tell him to stop.
Right. Yeah.
So it was hard. And my worthiness was tied to my ability to do all of the things I was supposed to do.
And to gatekeep, I guess, boy behavior with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? My dad would tell me, you wouldn't wear stuff like that if you knew what boys thought when you did. And I didn't, I mean, it would be like a pair of, I didn't even really wear shorts. Every once in a while I would find a pair that was knee length, but then I didn't think I looked good in them. So I don't know why he would be constantly lecturing me on that because I didn't have clothes that were not garment friendly.
Wow. So even that was being said with garment friendly clothes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah. Like only one time did I go to school and borrow clothes from a friend and change. And that's because we were going to Lagoon. That was in high school. And I really wanted to wear shorts. And I just didn't even own any.
So regular old shorts weren't allowed really in your home,
You
or
had
not
to
available.
find knee-length ones, and it was just hard.
Knee-length were garments friendly.
Yes. I was so excited when capris became fashionable because then I could have something that wasn't pants and would be garment friendly.
Wait, how far do capris go down your leg?
Like mid-calf, like three.
And beyond knee.
It's like some real short pants.
That's what I thought. So it's
But
not
it was
even
a big
about the
deal.
knee.
No, it's not.
It's
about
hard
the-
to find shorts, especially back,
Yeah.
when they weren't being
I remember
adjusted.
I wore cargo shorts as a way to cover my garments.
Yeah.
And they looked fashionable-ish.
Did they?
I mean, exactly. That's why I said it with a little bit of
valid
hesitation.
question.
I mean, I thought they were relatively fashionable.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
She just called me out.
So
I'm here for it. I love it.
I just got fashion shamed by this.
we might need photographic evidence of this.
That's funny.
But yeah, high school was hard. It was hard because we were in Brigham City. We moved to Payson halfway through my junior year. And so that was a transition that was really hard, making new friends and at a school that was really different. Brigham City is a company town. That's how my brother always described it, because most of the people who worked there worked at the same place. And so it's like,
Which was that, Morton Thiokol?
it was Morton Thiokol. And so the CEOs lived on the hill, and my dad worked at Icon Fitness in Logan. So we weren't even associated with that crowd. And we lived in the middle area of town with the normal people. And so there was a hierarchy there, not just with the church, but also at school. The same hierarchy existed.
That means his commute would have been Sardine Canyon every day. That would have been incredibly dangerous in the winter to commute to Logan from Brigham City through Sardine Canyon.
But when we lived in Colorado, he had a similar commute from Woodland Park to Colorado Springs. It's a very similar snowy mountain.
It's a treacherous canyon in the winter. Anyway, okay. So by any objective, quote, Mormon morality standard, you were a, quote, good girl.
I was.
In terms of the law of chastity. And yet you were probably having to hide and lie to or from your parents and still feeling a ton of shame. Can you explain that?
I mean, my freshman year of high school, I wasn't 16 yet, and I was in this creative writing class, and there was a boy in there I had a huge crush on. And so, I'm going to go for a bike ride, and I'd bike to his house, and we'd talk outside for 10 minutes.
And you feel what?
Terrible.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, just terrible. And the whole time I'm thinking, what if my dad drove by right now?
Yeah.
You know, this isn't a huge town. He could drive by. I don't know why he would, but he could.
Mm-hmm.
So I could never relax. I couldn't relax. I couldn't, just be sitting on the curb. Even after school, if I had a little boyfriend and we decided to hold hands on the sidewalk after school while we walked home, I knew my dad was at work in Logan, but what if he drove by? Or what if somebody from church drove by and he caught wind that I was holding hands with this boy? So I was always afraid. And I always had, my brothers were around and they were watching me. They were seeing what I was doing, and that would get told sometimes to Dad. Like one time there was a family that lived on the street right behind us, and there were two boys in that family who were right around my age, and I had crushes on both of them. And so I would, just walk down onto the street behind our house, and what if they're out riding their bikes? I don't know. And so hanging out with them, and I look back one time and my brother is peeking around the bushes watching me. And I'm like, Dad's going to find out. I'm going to be in so much trouble. Just, roller skating on the street, riding bikes, because there were boys present.
And then as you're getting 16, 17 and you're really dating, did you find yourself having to hide and lie then too and feeling guilty?
Yes, not because I was even breaking the rules, but just because I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I liked dating. I wanted to be out on a date every weekend. Mm-hmm. And I would catch feelings for somebody and want to go on another date with them. And so then it's like, well, how do I do that?
With the ABCD
yes.
plan.
With the ABCD plan. And how do I have a boyfriend who knows that I have the ABCD plan? And so then he's colluding with me to be like, well, just say you're going to hang out with these girls and then I'll end up being there. And so there was always.
Yeah. It is an interesting dynamic where you can even be hyper righteous, but still the plan expects so much perfectionism that you end up growing up feeling like a liar, which is not a good thing. It's still a horrible thing, right?
Yeah.
And then the church has such a standard of lying. Did you learn about half-truths and full truths?
Oh, yeah.
Tell about that, because it makes it so nobody escapes deep guilt
liar,
and shame,
really.
right?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, because like I said, if I was going out on a date with someone and we really just had fun, we would go to the DI, which is a thrift store, and buy clothes and do whatever we buy for the other person, you have to wear it, and then go to McDonald's. It's harmless. It's fun.
Yeah.
But because I did that with the same guy 2 times in a row, then I have to, I'm not going to be specific about who I was with. Oh yeah, we just went here and then we did this. But in my heart, I knew that I was lying.
Yeah.
And then because of discernment, can my dad tell? And if so, what does he think about me right now? And is that going to affect how now Heavenly Father is thinking of me? Because my dad and God were very connected.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I guess to try and look at it from the church's perspective or your dad's, they are trying to prevent unwanted teen pregnancies, STIs, and then what the Book of Mormon describes as the sin next to murder, which is any sexual activity outside the bonds of marriage.
Yes.
So, the hard part is they're coming at it from from an altruistic place, right?
Yes. And I would tell people, as in my later teenage years, if I wasn't a member of the church, I would have absolutely gotten pregnant. Mm-hmm. Because there was no middle ground there for me where you can have safe sex and protected sex and educated sex. That didn't exist.
Yeah.
So I was either Mormon or I was a teen pregnancy.
Yes, right.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's interesting that, you can go with the dad's intention or even the church's intention, and how, what would I say? It's like how insidious fear can be. Mm-hmm. that you come from this place, if a parent comes from this place of the world is scary, the world is, a fear-based sort of approach, then the child also feels in some way either fear for the parent who's trying to do, I don't know, to me it just feels like the expectations, I don't care who you gave those to. It's like no one can live up to expectations that are that high, where there are that many things for a child to do. So inevitably, you're going to walk around with, a lot of shame and a lot of internal pain.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is you probably were looking for comfort too, like happiness, just to have a break from that anxiety, which is like the most human thing in the world, to desire. So some of the environment of growing up, it sounds like, with like so much anxiety and fear for a parent, or can set you up for this thirst and desperation to just feel some connection somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. And trying to find that with other male figures other than my dad, and then being punished for looking for that. And it also was very tied to the shame that I just had in general about my body. So we were not, at least I wasn't taught anything about my body. So when I started my period, I didn't know that was going to happen. Like I had gone to one maturation clinic in 5th grade, and I didn't know what they were talking about. I honestly thought that I would start my period, whatever that was, when I was 9 or 10, and I would have it every day until I was 60. I didn't understand that it was, because I didn't realize it was tied to, maybe you could get pregnant once a month. I didn't realize there was this cycle. I didn't understand it. Yeah.
Right.
And so when I started my period, it was scary and it was shameful, because I didn't know what it was. And then because I didn't talk to my parents about anything other than the church, I didn't know who to ask to figure out what was going on. I finally worked up the courage after hours that morning to say, Mom, I think I have a period. And she said, Are you okay? And I was like, I guess so. So then I went in the bathroom and read the back of the box with the pads. And that's how I figured out how to manage that. And that was just really tied into all of this shame about sex and being afraid of boys and what could happen. My body, I didn't exist comfortably in my body. I had to cover it up. And we didn't talk about periods, so that felt really scary and shameful. I didn't talk about it with the other girls at church. If I forgot a pad at school, I didn't ask anyone. I said I was sick and I went home.
Yeah.
And I remember teen pregnancy rates being very high in Utah during this time period. And I remember just talking to women who just said, I was never taught how babies happen, right? I didn't know how you got pregnant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
like some would kiss or touch and they would be worried that they got pregnant from kissing or touching because they were never told what causes impregnation.
I just picked it up in 6th grade. They said the word chromosomes in my science class, and I was appalled. I thought that was a bad word, something we shouldn't talk about. Chromosomes, yeah.
Okay, so I always say that shame seems to be a secret ingredient in the Mormon business model, because it just, no matter what, you're going to grow up feeling unworthy, and like without the church, you're lost and broken and damned and unworthy, right? Yeah. But let's just talk quickly about your spiritual development and your testimony development sort of in high school.
Yeah.
And then we'll go towards how you end up losing your faith. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I was in Utah, so I had a release time seminary.
Meaning you would walk across the street.
Yeah. It was
during high school hours.
Yeah, it was like 3rd period, walk right across the street to the Institute seminary building. Yeah, and have a paid seminary teacher who taught us. We got grades. We, had attendance, whether we were tardy and that was something Julie and I were talking about when we were driving over here, was that I was never late. Ever. If you looked at my high school and junior high transcript, I did not have one tardy ever. So I was just, but yeah, so I would go across the street, and we had done so much scripture study growing up, but it was very Book of Mormon focused. So I remember when we did Old Testament in seminary and they started talking about the plagues in Egypt, I had never heard of that before. And so I was looking around and everyone else knew what it was. And I was like, yeah, I know what that is. But I had started bearing my testimony over the pulpit when I was young. When I was 7 or 8, I went up and bore my testimony, and I was scared. I was nervous and anxious. So I started to cry. And afterward, they told me that was the Spirit. So I knew that if you cry, that's good. That's the Spirit. But in high school, I believed all of it. And as much as I was really, I want to say begging, but like for my dad and my mom to love me, I was doing the same with God. Like, I'm going to go to seminary and I'm going to ace it. And then God will also love me. That is what I will get in return. And when I was a senior and I was going to graduate from seminary, they had all the seminary graduates speak in sacrament meeting. And they called my house to say that was going to happen, and nobody gave me the message. I don't know who answered the phone, but they didn't tell me. So I showed up at church that Sunday. The bishop's standing there greeting, and he's like, "Are you going to come to a prayer meeting?" And I said, "For what?" He's like, "Because all the people who are speaking in sacrament meeting today are going to do prayer meeting." And I was like, "Good one, Bishop, I'm not speaking." And he's like, "Yeah, the seminary graduates are speaking today." And I was like, "Really?" I, at that moment, realized it was not a joke. And so he said, "Well, we'll just put you at the end of the program." And so I was sitting up in front of everybody preparing a talk, and all the other seminary graduates are getting up and they're saying, "Oh, we had missionary week and we learned how to iron a shirt." And I got up and I talked about how the gospel was the cornerstone of everything I did, right? I actually gave a very spiritual talk. I remembered this one movie that they showed us in seminary where there was this little kid who was out playing in the front yard and his mom was watching through the window, and the kid started to run towards the street and the mom is banging on the window and the kid's not listening. And so she runs down and she scoops the kid up and was like, "I told you not to go to the corner." And the kid looks at her and says, "Mommy, what's the corner?" And I talked about that in my talk, and all of it included all of this emotion. And I was like, the gospel taught me what the corner is. So I know, so I can stay safe. And that was what my testimony was based on, was if I do these things, then hopefully I can be safe and I won't run out in the street.
So by pretty much all markers, you were a hyper righteous, believing, faithful, devout Mormon teenager.
I think my friends thought that. I was not perceived that way in my family.
Let me check in with Julie about that. So how did you perceive, Julie, Meggan's righteousness by the time she was a senior in high school?
Like, I thought it was fine, but I heard what other family members said.
What were they saying?
She's lies. She has boyfriends. She wasn't very righteous,
Dang. What a difference. And what a set of elements of indictment. You hid what you were doing with boys, but you weren't having sex, but but I mean, the fact that inside your family you were viewed as less righteous given your behavior, that's wild. Anything else you want?
Yeah, because you had that one boyfriend, and I thought it was in high school, but I think it was when Meggan got out of high school that she had the boyfriend. But with the way the family talked about it, I thought it was when they were still in high school. So that was, you can clear the air on that one.
We started dating at my 18th birthday party. So, and that was a month before I graduated high school. So that was the boyfriend, but he was pre-mission, so I can see.
But what a weird condition in your family to be working so hard to be righteous, but to have the perception in the family of you being one of the least righteous. What's that like?
It was a lot of pressure because so many siblings, it wasn't always my dad policing me because the siblings took over that job.
Right.
You know, they weren't just the parent in a I was parenting Julie in a comfort role, not purposely, but my brothers were parenting me as another dad.
Right. They were upholders of your, like supporters of your dad, the kind of arms, maybe thinking they're protecting you or maybe trying to stay safe themselves by pointing the, okay.
So yeah, there were always eyes watching. And actually, my brothers that I went to
Under his eye.
Gosh.
What is the But when I went to high school, when I was a freshman, 2 of my brothers were in high school with me. And one of them wouldn't acknowledge me. He was a cool kid and he didn't acknowledge me at school. And the other one would sometimes, but it was in that role of another father. So one time my locker got jammed and he unjammed it for me, which was really kind. But it was in this role of, you probably can't do this. I'm going to do it. I'm the man. I'm the protector. And also, you should listen to everything I'm telling you about boys.
Real quickly, Julie, any other impressions of Meggan before?
I know. I mean, she was 4 years older than me, so I just thought she was the cool sister.
Okay.
You know, because she was the cool sister. She helped me get ready for prom and any of the fancy dances. She was doing my makeup and hair. So when I would hear negative things in high school, I didn't really care because I was like, she's the cool sister.
Did y'all spend time just hanging out together too? Fun, whatever?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a lot of memories of like going to the mall together because she was out. She was like in college already by the time I was really getting old enough. But I do just remember her kind of in that caretaking role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember just having hangouts either.
Once you're a senior in high school, you don't always want to hang out with your freshman sibling.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, and she was so far away. Yeah. There were a lot of siblings between us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious if at the time the pain registered for you, that you were working so hard and being so misunderstood. Like the narrative was beyond your control in your family of origin. Like, did the pain register for, do you remember, like, were you angry? Were you just desperate? Like just trying to like hustle even further? Or do you remember that? It kind of when you actually start feeling like, wow, there's a disparity here in the way I am experiencing myself and in the way my parents are talking about me. Or
I didn't realize it in high school. I think I adopted their thoughts about me
Okay, yeah,
more.
that makes sense.
And I was depressed because of it. I felt lonely. I felt lonely because I couldn't even feel safety from myself. I didn't feel it from them.
Yeah.
And that translated into me putting, their words were in my head. My internal voice was my dad. And there are still times when I have to push back against that. So the feelings were coming out in ways, but I didn't recognize that's what was happening because I thought I'm bad. So of course I feel bad.
Yeah. All right. One last question before we.
Yeah.
Did you have moments where you were able to discern that the way your parents were having you live to be good, in quotation marks, righteous, whatever, was so much harder than everyone else? That the expectations for you were always like when you had to be home, or that you weren't watching TV shows that other people were? Or did any of that, like, as you were like feeling disappointing, as you were feeling like, why can't I get this right when I'm working so hard? Did you ever, like with your friends or people you were out with, realize, wow, they're living a different Mormonism than I am.
I didn't.
Okay.
I really didn't. I just thought all teenagers kind of hate their parents.
Got it.
And so what I'm experiencing is what people are talking about. When people say your parents are strict or hard or they have rules, this is what they're talking about. But they say, honor thy father and mother, and they say that your parents love you. So this is the only thing I know. So this is love.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess there's so many ways we could drill deep, but for the sake of time in the narrative, take us from you graduating high school, salutatorian. I imagine you served as president of your respective...
Laurel president.
Yeah. Is that right? You were Laurel president?
I was.
Okay. So you did all the things, graduated. When did you first start questioning or having doubts about your faith?
When did I...
where it was...
It's hard because it was happening for a long time and I didn't know. So I can tell, like, because it wasn't when I graduated. I mean, I went to Rick's College, and I graduated Rick's College without being married, which I felt shame about. I thought I was washed up at 20 years old.
You graduated at 20?
Well, because it was a 2-year
Oh, right.
college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I got my associate's degree and got married later. Like all of my roommates got married after that first year, and I didn't. And so I went back a second year, and all my roommates were engaged or got married, and I didn't. So I graduated. It was very shameful. But at that point, I wasn't married yet, so I hadn't reached that point where God could love me. So
what were you taught about your future as a woman in Mormonism?
When I went to Rick's College, my dad gave me a father's blessing beforehand, and he told me I would find my eternal companion. So when I went there, I was going to school, but my one job was to find someone to marry, because my worth was bound to getting married and having children.
Yeah. So stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Babies.
Yes. And in first grade, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, and I said I want to be a mom. And I literally had no other thought about anything else ever.
Yeah. So when did you get married?
Like, how old was I?
How many years after graduating Rick's?
Graduated there. It was...
What'd you do after Rick's?
Moved to California.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to go to BYU. And Rick's was a 2-year college. So I was like, well, I'll go out there and work for a little while, and then maybe I'll go back to school later. And that's when I met Donnie. And we met 2 weeks later, got engaged, got married 4 months after that, and had our first child 11 months later.
So what age were you married?
Married at 20, had our oldest at 21.
So like right after graduating Rick's, you go to California, meet Donnie, get married, and you have a kid.
Yeah.
9 months later.
11
months later. Okay.
Yeah. 11 months.
Okay. So by 21, you're married in a Mormon temple.
Yeah. Yep. Manti temple.
Manti temple.
In January,
Yeah. Okay. Did you experience the unconditional love from God, your dad, mom, and yourself once you got temple married?
Well, so Donnie was the first one who I'd crossed lines with when it came to chastity. We didn't have sex, but yes, pre-marriage. We didn't have sex, but we might as well have, right? And so when I got married, I knew it was a lie.
That you weren't worthy to enter the Lord's sacred house.
Yes. So it plagued me.
And you lied because you had learned to lie maybe in high school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that was what I did because I wanted them to know, but I also wanted them to, I was a people pleaser. I wanted them to like me.
Yeah.
So I was always torn between the two. Yeah. So
there's also that weird thing where in Mormonism, you didn't have sex.
We didn't have sex? I know. And so then I'm justifying it. But I knew we crossed some lines. Yeah. So after I went through the temple for the first time a month before we got married. And after that, I was like, okay, I've got the garments now. And when I went through the washing and anointing, I think my sins were forgiven. So we just can't for the next month.
Yeah.
But I was 20.
Yeah.
He was 22.
Yeah.
That wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I got married. But then I had a baby and I was like, it's got to be behind me. Right? But there was always that nagging feeling of what if it's not?
So you're saying you were never able to feel fully worthy because your temple marriage in your mind wasn't worthy.
Yeah.
So you never got that satisfaction of arriving at worth.
No, I think for about 10 seconds after I got baptized was the one time where I can
When
pinpoint
you were
right
eight-
now
when you
I'm
were 8?
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole model breaks down if you actually feel worthy.
Yeah. And I didn't. I was following the path.
Okay. So at what age did you start having serious doubts about your faith in the church?
It was way later. So when our oldest was 5 years old, she did something that I didn't approve of. I do not remember what it was.
You're 26 at this point?
Yeah, I can't do math in my head.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is probably right. But
Okay.
yeah, we lived in St. George, so we had 3 kids by then and a 4th on the way. And she did something and I reacted in a way that my dad would have. I didn't spank her, but just the way I talked to her. And she looked at me and I saw myself looking at my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I knew that I did not want to do that to her. I never wanted her to look at me like that. I never did. So we were so poor. So I couldn't just, sign up for a parenting class so I went to the library and I got parenting books. Because I was like, I have to do something different and I have no tools for this. I had scoured everything the church had and there was nothing about how to be a good parent that I could find that was actually actionable material. Show love. Well, I don't know what that means. And so I became a voracious reader of parenting books. And that was the beginning of my faith deconstruction, but I
Whoa.
didn't know it.
Whoa. Margie's nodding. Why are you nodding, Margie?
No, I relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know I was deconstructing my faith, but I was, because my parenting was tied to my dad and was tied to God.
Mormon God.
Yep, Mormon God. So when my parenting started to change, I started to realize that a God who would be so dysregulated that he would drown all of his children.
Noah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, Noah and the flood.
Yeah.
I, as an imperfect mortal being, am becoming a better parent than that. So how can I worship someone who would treat their children the way that I have now vowed I will not do? But that took, 10 years to come to that conclusion. But it started that day when my daughter looked at me and I thought, there's got to be something better than this.
Yeah. So your faith in Mormon God started to fade.
Yeah, because I didn't know anything outside of the correlated church material. So there wasn't any church history stuff that was bothering me. I didn't know anything about polygamy. I mean, I knew polygamy existed. I didn't even ever think about whether or not Joseph Smith was a polygamist. If I had known, it wouldn't have bothered me. But I don't remember knowing or not knowing. It wasn't something I thought about. None of that bothered me. I just accepted it all and brought it in. The thing that started to crack that was when I realized that God maybe wasn't a very good parent.
Tell me what year you were born.
1981.
So it would be 2006, 7-ish when you were kind of 25, 26,
Yeah.
right? Does that sound right?
Yeah, so St. George was...
So
I
that's,
graduated from... Because I went back to school after we were married and got my bachelor's degree. Graduated in 2006 and we moved to St. George in
your bachelor's was where? From where?
From BYU, Idaho.
Oh, you went back. Okay.
Yeah, I went back.
Okay.
Had to eat up the rest of that scholarship.
Yeah. Okay. So you did finish.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So 2005, 2006, that's the beginning of the Mormon, bloggernacle. Podcasts were young. The Mormon Stories was just starting.
Yeah.
The CS letter didn't exist yet. Mormon Think was just coming online, but most Mormons didn't even know what podcasts were, let alone start getting exposed to the historical problems.
Yeah, no.
So that makes sense. You didn't know Joseph Smith was a polygamist in 2006, 2007.
No, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I did or didn't know. Honestly, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Polygamy was not something that bothered me because
Certainly, I could bet lots of money that at 26 in 2005, 2006, you weren't told that Joseph Smith had 30 wives and 14-year-old wives and mother-daughter pairs and sister pairs and other men's wives.
No, I didn't. I don't even know. That's what when people say they were bothered about polygamy back then, I don't know how or why, because I didn't think about it. I didn't realize that he was or wasn't. If someone had told me he was, I would have just accepted it.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the next big crack in your testimony? You recall?
Yeah, there were a lot along the way, but a lot of it was tied to parenting, watching my kids get into their teen years and navigating the same things that I did and seeing that same shame showing up and further separating myself from the church because as a parent, I didn't want to enforce all of that stuff that made me feel so much shame. So we went from St. George to Southeast Alaska, and that's the first time I was a Relief Society president in a small branch in Southeast Alaska. And my oldest was getting into middle school and starting to navigate some of those, boys and hormones and wanting to have boys over to the house and realizing, because I was still voraciously reading parenting books at this time, that I was veering from the church a little bit, but I thought if Heavenly Father is at least as understanding as I am, he's going to understand what I'm doing. But I was pushing a little bit, my daughter wanted to dye her hair and I was like, yeah, that's fine. For me, that was never okay growing up. That was an unnatural hair color. Even, Rick's and BYU Idaho have those standards. So, but I was like, it's fine. It's just hair. And that felt like a departure. And so it was kind of tiptoeing into these little departures.
It was a departure. This is when rumors started around the family because she was allowing these things to happen. Like how her kids have colored hair. We're like, oh, did you see?
Yeah. So Julie, let's hear your perspective. So you're now still at home, still in high school?
So I graduated high school in 2003.
Okay.
So I was in college at this point. So I was separated from the family, but I was still involved.
Well, let's talk quickly just about your high school experience as a Mormon kid. Was it different than Meggan's or identical or?
Yeah, no, it was different.
How so?
I tried so hard to be perfect, like we had talked about before. And when I was 15, I found, I got a boyfriend and I felt so guilty after a few months. So I broke it off and tried to really get into the church and just do everything my dad wanted me to do. And I realized that it didn't matter how much I did. It still was never going to be enough. So I was like, screw it. I'm just going to do what I want to do. So when I went back to whatever grade that was, like a junior year, I think when I was 16, I got my boyfriend back. I started learning the guitar so I could be in a band, though I never did that. And I snuck around all the time and I had rebellious teen years. And I always called it rebellious teen years until later on I realized it was just being a normal teenager, just wanting to know about things, so I had the boyfriend all through high school.
You just had to hide that?
Oh, yeah.
And maybe lie about it?
I never, even to this day, I've never told my parents. They had to have known.
Yeah.
Right? They had to have known.
I don't know.
But I never admitted it, and I was still doing the ABCD, but it was all his friends that would pick me up and then I would go out with him, and I'd go hang out with my girlfriends on the weekend, but he would be there.
Yeah.
So it was always sneaking around and lying. But like my parents stopped asking where I was going. I would just say I'm going out with friends, but they stopped asking. And in my mind, I was like, it's because they know I have to lie and they don't want me to lie.
Also, like, how do you police 14 kids? It's going to wear you out. You have to, you just can't.
Yeah, it's a lot.
How about your sense of worthiness and guilt and shame throughout those high school years?
Yeah, it was still there, but I was able to kind of detach from it is what I did. And I got really into my guitar and music. I wrote a lot of songs, which I won't play them now because they're so sad. It was like a cry for help. Like in the songs I was saying, I just want to be loved. I just want to feel good enough. I just want to be seen. But it was not the experience that I had,
Yeah.
Like I was just scared all the time, but I started finding a sense of my own identity when I was like, screw it, I'm just going to do what I want.
Yeah.
And so I still thought that I would graduate high school, get married right away, have babies, because that would make me beautiful. Not just worthy, but then I would be beautiful and people would perceive me as that. If I could get like a ring on my finger, I would be the pretty girl, but I was super rebellious. By the time I turned 18, I'd pretty much done all the things the church says not to.
Okay.
I still have never told my parents that. I smoked a cigar. I tried a cigarette. I got drunk a bunch of times, just things that Mormon kids should not be doing. But my friends were all doing it too.
And I didn't know. I didn't know that any of this was happening.
Yeah.
I think I was still perceived as the good girl during all this, I think. But again, we've never talked about it.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know, and then I moved out the week after I turned 18 and had a different boyfriend. And obviously the law of chastity, I was like, don't care about it.
Yeah.
I don't care at all. Yeah. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the family narrative, whereas for Meggan, there was this overarching family narrative, it feels like, that kind of followed you those years. You just couldn't shake it, no matter. But for you, you didn't experience that same thing. There was no narrative you could detect at that time about you, or a way that your parents started treating you as like a lost cause or like a troublemaker. That was different for you.
Yeah, I was not treated that way. Like I said, I was still like a safe-ish place with my mom, because there was one time I'd slept over at my girlfriend's house and we went out and toilet papered at midnight. We both liked the same boy and he was awake and caught us. So we ended up going into his house and spending 3 or 4 hours there. And when we got back to my friend's house, her mom was in the bedroom waiting for us. It's like, oh no, we got caught, because we were gone from like midnight to 4 a.m. And she was like, I'm going to have to tell your parents. It's like, no, do not tell my parents. And she told my mom, and I was just freaking out the whole day for my dad to get home, and she never told him. So it was still, and I was the peacemaker, the people pleaser, and the perfectionist. And so even though I was doing these things, I think that still stayed with me. I still thought I was this good girl.
Yeah, and it's interesting that by like measurable behavioral standards, and forgive me for using these words, but you were less faithful or less righteous than Meggan, Julie, but somehow Meggan got flagged as the less righteous one. And because you kept things private and secret for very good reasons, you were able to create the perception of righteousness by your family standards.
Yeah.
And so it was more, and I was going to ask that just about your family, because I think this is a common trait of many Mormon families, but probably human families, is the emphasis is more on the perception than the reality. The appearance, is that valid
Yes.
or not?
Yeah. Because it was just the appearance. It was an illusion of me being the perfect good Mormon girl. I mean, I was hanging out with friends that called Mormonism a cult.
Oh.
Yeah,
Wow.
even back then.
Meggan's like, what the? Meggan's like,
You
what
were? Yes, they called it a cult. And I was like, well, it's not, but you can say that, I guess.
I mean, one thing I do feel is really remarkable about you during this time is that you continued connecting with yourself like you did when you were a girl, right? When you would go to your room and journal and be by yourself, like you continued that. And whereas Meggan, I hear you saying throughout high school, I did these things, but I also was really merged and meshed with my parents' view of me. What I'm hearing from you, Julie, is that you were able to think through some of these things enough and differentiate enough that you were less like adopting the shame, like wearing the shame. You had like a little piece of you that you either put aside or created or were like slowly feeding that was like really different from, you know, your parents' version or what your parents kind of valued for you. Would you say that?
Because I didn't think that I was bad.
Yeah.
I was like, my dad might think that some of these things I'm doing is bad, but I did not think I was bad. And that's what shame is. If I had said I am bad, the shame would be there, but it wasn't. It was, my dad is really strict. And when I turn 18, then I can be who I am and I know who I am.
Yeah,
that's what it was for me at that time.
It's interesting. By being less, let's just say, mind controlled by the church, you actually had a healthier self-development.
Yeah. Yep.
And family and parents.
Yes.
And relationship with your parents.
Yes.
But you, Meggan, by being more mind controlled by the church, you had a less positive self-esteem and a worse relationship with your parents.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I wasn't the worst one. Yeah. I mean,
right. You don't know what you don't know.
I didn't know.
Right. Yeah. Worst in terms of the dumb.
I did toilet paper twice. Okay.
So, Julie, you graduate. What were kind of the high level milestones that you achieved? And then we'll come back to Meggan's faith. Well, I want to hear your milestones leading up to Meggan's loss of faith and leaving the church, but also the growing family rumors and perceptions of Meggan as you're into college and that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any other thing you want to say about your high school years that are really important to your story?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Can I prompt a story that came out last night?
Oh,
The seminary graduate. I think that really tells about the pressure,
yes.
the intense pressure you feel.
So, and I'll even add a little backstory to that too, because Meggan, graduated seminary, was never tardy, was never absent. I had over 40 absences in seminary. And I was like, I probably better get this graduation or my parents
have the same parents.
Yeah, right.
Basically, I missed a whole semester because I just didn't like the teacher, because he said that if you made a mistake, God would know and you would get struck by lightning. And I was like, that's not true. I'm never coming back here. So I skipped a whole semester of seminary, but then I had to make it up. And then by the time I was a senior, I did graduate and I was going to have to speak in church, and I knew it. And this was already, by this time I had gotten my friends that were not, they had all left the church and they were all out. They were all graduated from high school at this point. But I was telling them how I did not want to speak at seminary. And so one of them gave me a couple of Lortab, which I didn't even know.
A Lortab. Tell them, what is that?
It's a painkiller. So I think people use it after like really intense surgeries. And so I'm like,
Is it an opiate?
Like, did it make you loopy? Do you remember?
I remember. Yes. So they told me, they're like, it's going to take at least 30 minutes to get into your system. So I had this whole thing planned. I woke up early on a Sunday morning and I got in the bath.
Okay, it is an opiate. So, I mean, it's like, morphine or like Oxycontin or oxycodone.
But the plan is nausea. It's not about the pain relief.
But they had told me, they're like, if you take 2 of these, you will be really sick. I was like, perfect. Then I won't have to speak.
Great.
Because you couldn't say I don't want to speak, right?
No. I don't even know what the word no was at that point. It was just like, okay, I'll do it. So I got in the bath and I was so nervous because I'm like, I've never even taken anything more than ibuprofen. But I was also in the rebellious years, right? So I took the 2 and I was in the bath and I'm like, I'm not really feeling it yet. And once 30 minutes hit, man, I was sick as a dog, like dizzy, puking. My skin was like white. And I was in bed all day, but it was worth it. You know?
To not have to speak at seminary graduation.
So I got out of it.
Was it ward sacrament meeting or was it
just
seminary
sacrament
graduation?
meeting. But I just like, I didn't like the church at that time. I didn't want to be up there speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even take the sacrament at this point. So I would have like bloody noses that would conveniently occur before the sacrament was passed. And I would go out into the bathroom and it takes that's like a 20-minute process before you can go back in there. It's a long time. So
what kept you from just lying and taking the sacrament unworthily?
Ooh, yeah, you could. That was just, God would know. God would see that. So I could not do that. So I'd just conveniently pop on out.
Isn't that funny what we do and don't realize God can see? You know what I mean? Like if soaking is a thing, like in theory, God could see that, but
He would still know.
Somehow we're selective on what we realize God can actually see.
But I better not take that sacrament.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that was me. And then when I turned it was right before I turned 19. I actually had taken a hallucinogen, if that's the right word.
Like a mushroom? Or,
yes.
Okay.
With my friends.
At what age? 20?
I was 18.
What year was that about?
2003, 2004. Yeah.
Oh,
Because I turned 18 in 2003.
Okay.
That's early to be doing mushrooms.
But, well, I mean, it's like all of us were raised in the church and had left and were experimenting with these things that we had never been taught about. You know, and I was so nervous to do it, but I didn't know how to say no. And my friends were doing it, so I did it. And during that, I actually had a Joseph Smith moment.
Oh.
And I saw Heavenly Father and Jesus on the wall. This is what got me to go back to church, because they told me, like, you need to get your life back together and you need to start going back to church.
That needs to be a Mormon Stories episode. Mushrooms converted me to Mormonism.
No, I saw.
So I don't share that story a lot.
Wow.
Thank you, mushrooms. I want to bear my testimony that mushrooms led to my testimony.
Yes, because they did. Yeah, so I started cleaning up my act and going back to church at that point. So by the time I was 19, I was starting to get back into church.
Okay.
And I hadn't really learned anything since I was 16. So I felt like I was relearning a lot of that stuff, just stories out of the Book of Mormon. I'd forgotten a lot. But so when I got back in the church, I was like 100% in. You know, I gave up my identity, so many things I gave. I didn't know it at the time. But I gave up lots of pieces of me when I went back into the church, because you have to be obedient. You know, I gave up a lot of my music, my piano playing, because it just didn't feel like those were Christ-like things to do. I had to focus on getting married.
Did you get a rush of guilt and shame for your wayward youth or not? Did you just skip that, bypass that?
I didn't. I mean, I think it was always there and it was always underlying, because I had to go through the whole repentance process for a year. You know, and meet with
what?
A year?
Yeah.
Oh, you confessed to your bishop that you had sex?
Yes.
And his punishment was?
I had to tell all the details too. How many times, where we did it, what we did. Like it was.
Why did he need to know that?
I don't know, but I was being obedient.
Right. Back to that.
So I just told him everything. And I will say I felt very safe. Like nothing inappropriate in my mind happened. Granted, now I know that him even asking those questions is inappropriate. But the ward that I went to, I wasn't taking the sacrament. People could see that. They knew I was meeting with the bishop all the time. So I never made a friend the whole time I was in that singles ward for a year. But I didn't care. It was almost like this self-righteous thing. I was like, I have God's love and I don't need any of yours, you know? So it's just getting back into it. I was feeling, you know, the spirit. And I think what it was too is I was feeling love for my dad that I'd never received. That is, in that 1 year, I felt more love from him than I still ever have. And once I started dating again, that it was gone. It felt like it was gone.
So your dad loves you when you're not dating.
When you're
basically when you're a baby, a child or not dating.
But I mean, I was 19, so I should have been married, right? But that's when I felt, because I was just doing all the church things. Like I lived from home for like 3 or 4 months of that somewhere. And I was reading the scriptures all the time. And even on my lunch break at work, I was reading the scriptures. Like, and he saw that I was being so good. And I felt it. I did feel it from him for that year.
Must have felt so great and then so terrible to lose it again.
Yeah, because I sensed it immediately. Do you know, the first guy that I started dating, he was a very good person. And just my family didn't like him because he knew how to say the word no. He could set up boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't scared of like authority.
Right.
So even if a bishop or a stake president wanted him to do something, if he didn't, I mean, he was a good guy, but he would say, no, not got to. So my parents and my family did not really like him. Yeah.
How long did you date before you got married?
I didn't get married till I was 24. I was practically a spinster.
Okay.
By the time.
And you went to UVU, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you dated for 3 or 4 years before you got married?
Yes, and I dated a lot. Every Friday, every Saturday night, I had a date. Sundays, I was hanging. I've always had friends that were guys too. So Sunday, I was with all the guys. But I dated a lot. I was trying to be very righteous. And for some reason, it was just never working out. You know, like there was one guy I was dating and then he decided he took off his garments and I was like, we are over. We're over, you know? So, I mean, I tried. It just, thankfully, none of those relationships had worked out, you know? And when I met my husband when I think I might have been 23 or 24, somewhere around there. Yeah, he was just different because he kind of tested the limits a little. He was like, you don't have to read your scriptures every day and you can still be good, you know? So yeah, it was a while. And then we dated for almost a year, which was a long time. And then we waited 6 years to have kids. Yeah. So that was also like unheard of.
Were you temple married?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Which temple?
The Draper.
Okay.
Yeah.
What year?
09.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about, as going back to anything else you want to say about your story before we go back to kind of your perception, your family's perceptions of Meggan's falling away. Anything else you want to say about your upbringing?
No, I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay. So when, from your perspective, Julie, did you start perceiving a family vibe that Meggan was losing her faith and becoming even more horrible than she was perceived to be in high school?
So we weren't even saying that she was losing her faith. Just like little rumors were just going around the family. Like one of them was like, did you know she's anorexic? And whether it was true or not, I never thought to like call her and say, are you okay? Is everything okay? Are you? We just believed it. We're like, oh, she is. She's such a horrible person because of that.
Oh,
so
wow.
Was it true? I don't know, actually.
It was. So after I had our oldest daughter, my metabolism just went really high. And it actually scared me because when she was 6 months old, I thought something was wrong because I could eat whatever I wanted and I was just very thin. So I went to the doctor and they did tests and he just said, this is just your body. Your blood work is great. Your hormones are great. There's nothing wrong with you. Your metabolism is just really high right now. So when you're hungry, eat. And did
you have a sense your family was talking about that behind your back?
I had a brother who would make comments. And so then I would try really hard to eat a lot when I was in front of him. To try to push back on it. But
yeah, the thing about that is normally, that's a time for care actually. Right. That would be a situation where, you'd want to care for that person and make sure they're supported and getting things that they need. Right.
Yes. Instead of spreading rumors, call them.
Yes. Or like
if
it's
they're
some
okay.
deficit or a place to judge them. Yeah.
And my experience is a lot of times in Mormon family culture, the gossip is about someone gaining weight. Oh, they've gained weight. Oh, they're looking a lot heavier. not about sort of losing weight being associated with being a bad thing. So I don't know.
The gaining weight rumors went around, just not about me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were sisters who got that.
Because Mormons are very weight conscious,
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And appearance.
Yes, appearance in
Focused.
general.
I feel like a lot of attention
yeah.
is to changes of appearance that are,
Yeah.
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 Okay, so rumors around being anorexic.
That happened. There was also rumors that, like, did you hear that her husband comes home from work and he doesn't help out around the house? You know, he's tired, he sits around, and Meggan has to do everything. And
Okay.
again, this is looking at it now, I'm like, why didn't we call and see if that was true and see if she needed help? Like, we just gossiped it around and we're just appalled that they would have a relationship like that, you know, where a man would come home from work and need to rest, you know?
Which is weird because our dad, that he didn't help out in those ways. The standard for Donnie was higher than it was for our dad. And this was coming from his kids saying, how dare a man be so patriarchal? I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me.
You know what? That's true, because another one of the rumors was that Donnie yelled sometimes.
And I'm guessing
But-
you say your dad yelled sometimes.
Yes, I'm just like putting that together right now. Like, again, we were holding him at a higher standard than what we even had.
Right.
Julie, was there a tie to all this gossip about Meggan and her faithfulness? Because ultimately that's how it all, culminates. Or was it just general negativity, gossiping about family members, or was it somehow associated with faithfulness in the church?
No, because Meggan hadn't left the church yet at this point. So it was
So they were
just
just crapping on Meggan.
Yes.
Well, I do think there are
Yes.
family systems that operate this way, like high control, especially if there's, would you agree if I said a parent with narcissistic traits? There can be favorites, just independently, like favoritism shown, or
Yes.
the opposite of that, where a child gets just a lot of strong disapproval from parents and oftentimes don't even know why, like don't really understand. I don't know. Does that feel like
100% yes, I would say. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
even she was the scapegoat. I can't really pinpoint why or when. She just was.
Yeah, me and my brother, just younger than me, got a lot of that. And, cliche middle children, I don't know. But I heard my dad say on more than one occasion, I love my kids when they're young and I struggle with them as soon as they learn to say no.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if that applied to all the kids, but I knew it applied to me.
Right.
So Meggan was telling a story about how she let, I guess, her daughter color her hair. Do you remember when, around that time, what the family gossip was?
That's what it was. It was like, did you see that she let her daughter color her hair blue and now it's green? And it was purple before. Like, that's what we were saying. It's just like, I can't believe she does that. Like, it doesn't look good. The hair needs to be clean cut. But why did we care? I don't know. We just did. And her parenting was so soft. And so gossip was spread around that too.
What would they say?
Like, she let her kids make a mess. Yeah. And she didn't discipline them. She doesn't discipline.
So she's a laxed parent.
Yeah.
When she was trying to be more of an evidence-based, healthy parent.
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Let children be children.
She started posting it on Facebook. Like, when her kids would make these huge messes, and it was her, well, she can explain her side of it, but what we saw was that, like, she is not watching her kids. She should be there. She should not allow them to make those messes. Like, it's just unacceptable. And I didn't have kids at this point. So I was judging, but I didn't know how it was to have kids. I was just kind of like feeding into all the gossip of the family.
Wow.
So our youngest two are 14 months apart. And they were thick as thieves as soon as the youngest could follow the second youngest around. And by that point, I was getting to a place in my parenting I had studied for years where I wanted them to feel comfortable making a mistake and learning how to fix it. And so it was hard for me because I did feel that pressure from my family, from my parents, from church to have the perfect kids. So to regulate my own emotions when they would do something, I mean, they overflowed the toilet in our house so many times. We kept a stack of wax rings so we could take the toilet off and put it back on whenever we needed to, because they were always putting stuff down there. So that I wouldn't yell at them, so that I wouldn't revert back to those things that I had been taught, I would take a picture as soon as I figured out what was going on, and I would post it on Facebook, and I would tell what they did, and I would put hashtag mischief managed. And that was my way of taking a pause so that I could then sit down and talk with them about, this is what happens when water gets all over the floor. This is what happens to our house. This is how we clean it up, which at that young age, you have to do that a lot of times before it catches on. And the two of them were just, we had chickens, and I would go to the bathroom and they would bring all the chickens in the house. And, I would be preparing dinner and the pantry was around the corner, and they would go and dump the baking soda all over the carpet in the living room. That's just what they did. They were exploring. And so I would be like, you know what? If you want to play with baking soda, that's fine. Let's put it in a bowl and sit in the middle of the wood floor. And then if it makes a mess, we can just vacuum it up. But that was seen as very permissive, and I wasn't controlling the kids. But for me, it was being able to enjoy my kids.
Yeah. And connect with them where they were. Right.
Yeah.
So when, Meggan, was the first time your testimony really started like taking a big blow? What age, what year, and what was the issue?
So we lived in Petersburg. So it would have been...
This is Alaska?
Yeah, Southeast Alaska. I was probably the Relief Society president at the time. And so it would have been like 2012 time frame, maybe 2013. And a member of our family made some accusations about a different member of the family. And I believed them. I thought that they were telling the truth and that I should support them. And I had been, at that point, Donnie and I, our marriage, we were trying to heal our marriage. And so I had not only been studying parenting, but now I'd been going into therapy and reading books by Brené Brown. And so I wanted to be the support for this sibling that I thought was the healthiest thing. And so I was trying to support them, and the pushback I got from my mom, like she called me at 5 a.m. one day and said, "You just need to forgive and move on." And I just, with everything that I'd learned, was like, I can't do that. It's not that I can't forgive, but we as a family need to address these things that are happening. We need to stop sweeping them under the rug. We need to be able to talk. I need to be able to say, my marriage is really hard right now, and I would love some support. I would love to be able to say it's hard without Donnie being condemned and being allowed space to change and heal. I don't want to pretend like it's not happening anymore. I don't want to pretend. I need to be honest. I've lied my whole life, and I need to be honest. And I started to feel a separation from the church then. And actually, it's around the same time that I asked to be released from being the Relief Society president. And the branch president said, give me some time to think about it, and we'll meet again. And he came back to another meeting and he said, I spoke with God, and God said, you need to keep doing it. And I said, that's fine that you spoke with God, but I am not going to do it anymore. And so...
Which is radical. People won't understand. But in a Mormon context, a woman telling a bishop, my personal revelation trumps your bishop revelation, that's bold.
And it was terrifying.
Yeah.
But it had been 10 years since I had started that journey, and it took me 10 years to say no for the first time.
Yeah, wow.
For the first time. I really hadn't said it growing up. I really hadn't said it in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like, and Margie, this is the theme you highlighted with me. Sounds like you started to be a system disruptor within your local ward / relationship with the church and your bishop. And at the same time, it occurred to you to maybe be a bit of a system disruptor with your family in the sense of saying, we need to start talking about hard things and not sweeping things like abuse under the rug. We need to change the family. Is that, Margie, what you were wanting to highlight there?
That's right. And also in that moment of saying no, it's a moment of like recognizing yourself exists and just like celebrating that. Yeah. How powerful and how long.
Yeah.
It was just such a work that you really put a lot of time and effort into all those years. Yeah.
So 10 years into your marriage, you're how old?
Well, was it 10 years? I mean,
Or
it was
more?
probably 15 years because our oldest was about 5 when I started the journey, and it was 10 years in.
Yeah.
So at what age did you start awakening, I guess, inside?
So I can't do math in my head, but it would have been
35 or
2013.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
though I do love that it was kind of the initial birth of differentiation was you feeling for your child. It was in a parenting role that it kind of, is that right? Was kind of,
yes. Yeah. And then I just kept doing it. And it got to a point where I had learned so much in therapy, and I had been doing it alone. You know, I was there reading books by myself, and I would try and be like, Donnie, this parenting book is so good. And he wasn't interested. So I was doing that on my own. And then going to therapy, we would see the therapist separately and then together. But I was having a much different experience than what Donnie was having. And so I just wanted anyone to understand that it was okay if things changed a little bit. And someone had a little bit of purple hair, and, you know, I cut my hair short at the time, which our dad did not like.
Julie's smiling.
Yeah, because we gossiped about that too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Because short hair means what?
I don't know. I don't even know. What did we even say about it? It was just like, she has short hair. That's not okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think in traditional Utah Mormonism, long hair means feminine.
Yes.
Short hair means masculine.
Yeah, I guess if it's longer, you're just more righteous.
Yeah, but my hair, I got made fun of for my hair always. Always. As long as I can remember, my hair was something that people teased me about, mostly my brothers. And because it's very curly in the back, very, very curly, like I would get perms to relax the curl in the back, and it's straight in the front. And so when I woke up in the morning, it was doing whatever it wanted. And it didn't matter if I straightened it or curled it halfway through the day. It was, half of it was straight and half of it was curly. And I have a big cowlick in the front, and so my bangs always poked up. And if I didn't have them, then my brother said my forehead was too big. So once I had 6 kids, I couldn't spend, it's not even that I couldn't. I no longer wanted to spend. I had done enough therapy that my hair was something I was willing to take a stand on and say, I'm not spending 2 hours on my hair every morning. Instead, I'm going to spend an hour alone working out, or half an hour alone working out. And then I'm going to have my hair short. So if I go out in the rain, I don't have to go back in and fix it.
Yeah.
I can just be with my kids.
And when did this turn into a full-on like faith crisis, like not even wanting to go to church and telling your husband you didn't believe anymore, all that?
Well, I see, and that's the thing. It didn't even really happen like that. So we moved to Missouri for a year.
And you were already not speaking to the family. Like, I feel we should interject this because I think it was in 2014 when she was starting to go to therapy. At least for all of us, we'd heard of it, but it was still kind of new. And I didn't know what was going on. It was just all of a sudden she was gone, you know, and then I think you guys lived in Alaska.
Well, so yeah, we lived in Petersburg, and 2014, we had a big family reunion, just our parents and siblings, you know, but that's a lot of people and all the kids. And during that family reunion, it was in, you know, Payson, Provo area. We all stayed at different family members' houses, and we had all these plans every day. And there was parts of it because my therapist that I was seeing was he was down here. Because in Petersburg, there were no Mormon therapists, right? So I did like a telehealth thing. And so I wanted to go see him in person because I'd never seen him in person. And so during the family reunion, I cut out for 2 hours so I could drive to Provo and see my therapist in person.
How
And
timely.
We gossiped about that too.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And
I can imagine. There are you get a lot of feedback in
as
your
she's
family, a
saying
lot
it,
of
I'm like-
evaluation going on.
I'm like, oh yeah, because we're like, she just deserted her kids to go do therapy. Like we just didn't understand, and there was no compassion at all for what she was going through. We just didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm. And it was shortly after that the sibling made the accusation, and I supported them. And then because I was standing up for them, it was too much. It was too much. I had already been the bad teenager. I had already gone to therapy during the family reunion. I had sent out an email to my whole family saying, Donnie and I are in therapy. And here are some of the things I'm learning. And it's great. You know, I thought they would just jump on board and want to have these vulnerable conversations that we'd never had. And I was like, well, maybe I'll start it. Maybe I'll be the one to say, I'm not perfect. My marriage is not perfect. And if yours isn't, that's okay. And then supporting this sibling in the thing that was going on with them, it was too much. And so I started to get actual emails and text messages and phone calls that were awful. Just like, you know, a picture of them flipping me off through Facebook Messenger, or, you know, you've always been so terrible to mom and dad, or why can't you just forgive? And I couldn't do it anymore. I knew too much to go backwards.
Yeah.
So you felt sort of kicked out or rejected from your family at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I kept trying. You know, I would send out an email or try to call somebody, but it eventually just became untenable. I would talk to my mom for 10 minutes and have to recover for a week.
Yeah, right.
And talk to my therapist about it. And, you know, during this time, like there was a Christmas previous where we had 6 kids in 10 years. We had never had any money. And we were always trying to play catch up from having them so young and school loans. And so my mom had helped us out for Christmas. Well, during this time when I was doing all of this pushing, she called and wanted the money back. And I just, I was like, I want to have a relationship with you, Mom. But I talked to my therapist about it, and I just told her, I said, I can give it back, but it will hurt our relationship and it won't help it. And so it was all of these things were just piling up. And for my own safety and mental health, I had to start pulling away.
Yeah. I'm feeling why. Yeah.
And then just because I want to talk about the church-related stuff too.
Yes.
Then when did you go full-blown start questioning and leaving the church?
Yeah. So we moved to Missouri, and I was uncomfortable about church because of how hard it made it for me to be a good parent. And so while we were in Missouri, we took a trip to Nauvoo because I was like, got to bolster my testimony. We went in the off season. We brought all the kids and did all the sites and saw, you know, where Joseph Smith died. And I was desperately trying to hang on to my testimony. And we were in a ward that was amazing. It was a bunch of weird people, just like us, just the salt of the earth, that ward. You know, the teenagers showed up at church in dresses that barely covered their booties and nobody cared. And so I hung on for that year. And then we moved to Fairbanks, and the ward we were in was not like that. It was all of the doctors and lawyers and dentists lived where we lived in that same area. And so we didn't fit in. And I was still learning and studying, and my kids were becoming teenagers, and I was letting them be teenagers. And I got a job at a grocery store, so Donnie and I's schedules would never overlap. I had always been doing graphic design and photography, mostly graphic design, freelance, but I wanted something steady. And so I got a job at the grocery store, and I worked nights. And I purposely started scheduling Sundays where I would work through church because I just didn't want to be there. I just didn't want to go. But I couldn't just stop going. But if I had to work, I had to work. Are you guys going to pay our bills, or am I going to go get a job at the grocery store? And they weren't going to pay our bills. So I got a job at the grocery store, and I was working Sundays. So I didn't go to church for about 6 months. And I loved it. But I was still, I didn't consider myself as falling away. I didn't know that my testimony was struggling. And then I had this group of ladies who we had all met through therapy because we thought our husbands were sex addicts, which that term never applied to Donnie. And actually our therapist made that real clear, but I still was like, he doesn't know. Donnie did look at porn 2 times. So in our whole marriage.
Oh gosh.
So he's probably, so I had met this Facebook group of women, and all of their husbands were porn addicts, and
in quotes.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's important. Big, huge quotes. And there was a group of them that were starting to get more nuanced like I was. So we started a Marco Polo group, which is where you can do like recorded video chats with each other. And so we were starting to talk about not leaving the church, but being very nuanced members, and still not having to do anything with church history stuff. Just, it's okay if your teenagers are teenagers, and it's okay if you relax the rules and those sorts of things. But then one of the girls in there said, this podcast episode just came out talking about the book of Abraham, and you should totally listen to it. So I brought some of the kids to karate, and they were in there for an hour, and I was like, I'm going to go for a walk. And I listened to a portion of it.
And this was not Mormon Stories. This was Bill Reel and Radio Free
Mormon.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it broke my brain. I remember feeling like I couldn't understand what they were saying, because nothing like that had ever occurred to me before. Because even though I was trying to be a better parent, the church was true. I was the problem, not the church. Up to that point, I was the one who needed to make my new parenting paradigm fit enough within Mormonism that I could still stay temple worthy and raise my kids in the church and do the things I was supposed to do. But at that moment, I started to actually look at the spiritual, historical side of the church as, what if I'm not the problem? What if it's not me? And that opened the floodgates, but I wasn't talking to Donnie about it. Mm-hmm. He still was like sort of on boardish with the parenting stuff, but I wasn't saying anything about the church stuff. So I listened to, in a very short period of time, every single episode that Radio Free Mormon had available. That's when I started running, because then I could have time out and I could just put my headphones on, and for hours and hours and hours on 2 times speed, I could learn all of the things I had never learned and feel validated that maybe, just maybe, it was okay if I was a good parent and did things that the church didn't want me to do. Like, it was still just felt like such baby steps.
Yeah.
And once I finished all of the Radio Free Mormon episodes, that's when I was like, well, I know about Mormon stories, and I'd been afraid of Mormon stories ever since the ordained women stuff when I first heard about Mormon stories. And that's when I started listening to Mormon stories. And I did the same thing where I just devoured every episode, one after the other. And during this time, I had quit working at the grocery store and I had started working at the high school in town. And so I started having to go back to church. And it was so uncomfortable. But because I was such a rule follower, and church it wasn't ever a question about whether or not I was going to go. I had never even asked myself, is this something I want to do? And so we went to church in Christmas of 2018. It was like the Christmas sacrament meeting. It's shorter and it's just a bunch of musical numbers. And after church, we went home and Donnie was sitting in a chair in our living room. And, it's Fairbanks in December. It's cold. We've got the fire going. And he says, babe, come here. And I was like, okay. He's like, you have to stop going to church. And I was like, I can't do that. He's like, you are miserable there. And I was like, but it doesn't matter. I have to go. And he's like, well, next week, I'm not going. So you can stay home with me if you want. And we didn't go back. We didn't go back. So I really think if Donnie hadn't done that, I probably would have kept going for who knows how long. Because it had been my Sunday expectation my whole life.
Right. Yeah.
So not going to church, I then felt a little bit more permission to continue deconstructing, but Donnie had just stopped going to church. So I was still on this internal journey of therapy and deconstructing, and Donnie was just enjoying a second Saturday. So I still felt very alone in my deconstruction. But with the permission that I had gotten from Donnie, that I had then kind of given myself to start looking at things more critically and just slowly but steadily realizing that the problem wasn't me, it was the church. And I didn't throw out God at that point. I just was like, maybe Mormonism's not where it's at. And that is when I learned, it started with the Book of Abraham. Then I learned about the seer stone and the hat, and that Joseph wasn't probably looking at the plates when he translated. And every single time I learned something new, I felt shocked, but for the mostly I felt better. I just felt okay.
You feel a sense of relief.
Yeah, I could just take a breath. I could take a breath.
Each time you learn something problematic about the church, it's another. It's maybe it's not me. Maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm not the problem. Maybe the church is the problem, and it just compounds.
Yeah. And then because I had already been ousted from the family system because I was just trying to be healthy. Now I had left the church, and so the really small conversations I had with a few family members were just so strained.
So how did you try and tell members of your family? Who did you go to? How did you try and tell them, and how was it received?
I didn't really. What I did was I just started posting stuff on Facebook, and I was still friends with some of them. And because there was the rumor mill in our family, I knew it would get around.
Posting what types of things?
I posted a video of a pastor from a different church, some different Christian church, that was about how they left their evangelical church because of the control. And I just posted it, and the only commentary I made was like a heart. It was a video, and my whole commentary was a heart. And then in the comments, people were pushing back, and that's when in the comments, I was like, no, my experience was real similar to this woman. And so it was stuff like that because I wasn't telling my family because at that point I was like, they don't hold that space in my life anymore.
Right.
They're already upset with me. They already don't like me.
So you didn't write some big exit letter and post it to Facebook. You started vague booking things that people who were paying attention could see as kind of dog whistling, having lost your faith or left the church.
Yeah. And we already hadn't been attending by that point for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how long, but I'm sure the people who were in our ward and were my Facebook friends were realizing already that we hadn't been showing up.
Did you stop going to family reunions and stop going home to visit family by this point or not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that had happened. That last family reunion in 2014, within a year of that, I was only hanging out with that one sibling who I was trying to support.
Yeah. Okay. And one big marker for people who leave the church but who haven't really explicitly told their family is when kids reach certain age milestones like baptism at age 8 or for men, priesthood ordination at 12. Normally, you would have some big family event where everybody comes to see the baptism of your kid, or everyone comes to see the blessing of your baby, or everyone comes to see your kid receive the priesthood, and you don't because you're not attending anymore. And then family all knows that there's something wrong because you're not participating in those faithful Mormon milestones. That wasn't an issue for you because
we just lived.
We're already distant. Yeah.
We lived so far away, and I was separated from the family, not just by distance, but also, emotionally because of all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So by the time we left the church, they weren't part of, I wouldn't have invited them. I don't know if I would have left if I had still been enmeshed with them in that way because there would have been that expectation.
Yeah.
So leaving the church was somewhat contingent upon me already being separated from all those rituals where I would have felt that pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost sounds like that space that you created, having physical distance, but also the emotional and psychological distance, it allowed you to reset yourself. Would you say that? Because your default was always kind of so defined by them. So giving yourself that space, it allowed you to actually create new patterns, create an identity that's about you, have relationships that were able to embody healthy things you were learning. Is that how you would talk about that time?
Yes. And even to this day, I have not had a discussion about the leaving or how hard it was with my dad at all. I have tried to have those conversations with my mom and they didn't go well. So I stopped doing that when I just realized it was too painful. But I had to have space because, and it's not just my dad, like I've never gotten pulled over and gotten a ticket because male authority figures are still very, very scary for me. And so I had to have that space or I don't think I would have done it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very difficult, I think, to heal when I would say trigger, when the trigger is still dominating or coming up in your life, right? Is that what you mean by that a bit? It's just creating more space around that as a, and did that exist at church? You had said at one point that the Mormon church God and your dad were kind of it like blurred together. So even in Mormonism, as you're going to church, is Mormon God reminding you very much, and are you experiencing Mormon God in very much the same way as your dad?
Yes.
So taking a step away from that too.
And so, then when I left, I thought that if I stepped away from Mormon God, I could embrace Christian God, right? Because Mormon God was my dad, was scary. And there were quite a few people who tried to talk to me and be like, well, you just need to look at Mormon God differently. But I needed all of that space. And I needed to start saying no in ways that felt a little bit easier, one thing at a time. And so it would be something as simple as like, no, I don't need a drink of water when someone offered it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I'd rather not show up at that book club this month, even though I read the book and I was totally prepared, until I could get to the place where I could start saying no to, the branch president and then eventually Donnie, but still haven't ever really said it out loud, even today, to my dad.
So Julie, 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
How was your Mormon journey after marriage leading up to the point where Meggan and Donnie stopped going to church? How were you enjoying your Mormon experience? How was your family doing since Meggan was totally disconnected from your family? Were there other people who were becoming black sheeps? Was Meggan just the only one? How happy were you as a Mormon? And then take us up to the point where you and your family started seeing her vague booking apostate-like messages.
Yeah, so Meggan left the family only a few years after I had been married. And
yeah, I actually met her kids for the first time quite, recently, right?
Wow.
yeah, like after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we were just Mormoning really good. I thought I was happy, but I knew deep down that I wasn't. But I was just trying to do everything that I was supposed to in the church. Me and my husband had moved down to California, and that helped to kind of get out of the valley and away from all the family drama. So we could just like be our own people down there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he was always a little lax on stuff. I think I mentioned that before. He would let me go shopping on Sunday. He would tell me I should. Be like, it doesn't matter. God doesn't care. Or because I was working sometimes on Sunday and feeling guilty. And my husband was like, it's fine. You can do what you need to do. You can take care of yourself. So I definitely wasn't the strict Mormon that my family wanted me to be, but I felt okay about it. So I didn't know that Meggan had left the church. Like there were rumors, but I didn't really know. I was kind of removed from that. I'm trying to think, what was the other part
How did you feel about you noticed probably the increased distance, emotional, did you?
Yeah, so when she left the family, I was like, what did I do? Because I am the peacemaker, I'm the people pleaser, and I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't understand why she's just gone. But I will say I never once tried to contact her. It was just like, okay, well, she's gone. We're just going to gossip. And I was never creating any of the gossipy rumors, but I just went along with it, and that's just as bad, I would say. But yeah, so we were in California and me and my husband had moved up to Seattle. And yeah, it was when we moved to Seattle and Meggan like fully distanced herself from the family.
What was it like for you to have a sister that meant so much to you growing up, first distance herself from her family and then from the church? How was that for you?
Growing up Mormon, I was really good at just not feeling my emotions.
Wow.
I didn't cry. Even now, to this day, it's really hard for me to cry, even when I want to. Even when I'm sad, I just don't cry.
Me too.
Yeah, so she'd left the church and I was sad about it, but I didn't know how to feel sad about it.
Right.
I talked to my husband a couple of times and then that was kind of it. It was just like, okay, moving on. Moving on.
You had talked about how much she meant to you kind of in your growing up years. I'm curious if you felt like the rumors did the rumors that were created about her blur it for you? Did it I'm curious if it kind of conditioned you, reconditioned you about her in a way that actually got really blurry or you almost forgot or how did you experience that?
I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot the Meggan that I knew. 100%. I forgot who that even was. Yeah. So when I was going through, well, actually that's in the future, right? But when I was going through and trying to deconstruct stuff that the family had said, that's what it was for me. I was like, hang on, this was the sister that I knew. This is the sister the family is talking about. And those are two different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
The other thing I just wanted to note was for how much Mormons and the Mormon Church emphasizes families, we seem pretty good at just cutting people off and cutting them out and never having deep conversations about what's wrong and how can we help and how do we resolve your concerns and how do we keep you a part of the family even though you parent differently or believe differently. Families are everything until someone kind of steps off the train or the track, and then we can just cut them off almost without even crying. Is that weird?
It is weird. But we had grown up that way, right? Like even though there were things going on in the house that we did not like, we were never, not that we weren't allowed to talk to each other, we just never talked about anything real or hard. Like if it wasn't in the Book of Mormon, we didn't talk about it. So it wasn't, yes, families are together forever and that was hard, but having a conversation about what she was struggling with, that wasn't even a possibility. That wasn't even an option.
Yeah, I think I can safely say that Orthodox Mormons are horrible about talking about difficult things.
Just
100%.
like the churches. It's like the family is the microcosm of the
family
issues
system
that
is
you
the
have.
church
That's
system.
right. And so a lot of those same things exist.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't mean to project that on your family, but that's how I experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it fits. It definitely fits because, we could have a 6-hour conversation about Nephi and Laban and, what President Hinckley said in the last conference. But if my marriage was hard and I wanted some actual tools to change what was happening, to stop this cycle that was happening, we couldn't talk about that. It was read your scriptures. And if you don't have an answer to that problem, you haven't read your scriptures enough because it's all there. You haven't seen it yet.
But mostly it's just don't talk about it.
Yeah. And that's how they shut it down is just, those primary answers.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So even though Meggan meant a lot to you growing up, is just and plus you just get so busy. Like the Mormon Church keeps you so busy.
Yes.
You don't have a lot of time to grieve about a sibling, especially if there are 13 other siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had other siblings left the church or distanced themselves from the family before Meggan or during the same time Meggan did?
There was a brother who'd also distanced himself. And then I think, I don't know, because I wasn't in Meggan's timeline, but yes, like there was a brother that left first, then I think maybe
two brothers.
Two, okay. Yeah, so they just they were sprinkled in there, just leaving.
But they sent out the emails.
Okay, so
they did the full
exit letters.
Yeah.
And was there a double standard for how they were treated versus how Meggan was treated, or were they also cut off and gossiped about by the family once they exited vocally? Or do you know?
I don't think the gossiping was always the worst regarding Meggan, for sure. And so I don't know why it just was that way. So when the first brother left, we definitely talked about it, but there wasn't like the gossip behind it. There was like sadness. I actually did cry when I found out that he left. I cried for like 2 days because I really liked that brother and I didn't want to like lose him for eternity. When he left, though, the relationship that he had with my parents also left. And as other siblings started leaving, the same thing continued to happen. So the next brother left, no relationship with my parents. The other 2 siblings that left shortly after him, like I don't think, there might be minimal interaction with my parents, but it's never, like once you left, like you were saying before, Mormonism kind of breaks up families.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you are living this evidence, this proof, threat of like, you can choose that, but this is what will happen.
Yeah.
This is what it costs, right?
Yes.
Is you will lose your parents' approval, love, the system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even you'll lose the surface relationship that you have. Like you'll lose that too.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is going to be asking the same question from a different way, but but this is so mind blowing how religion can come between people that love each other. So, Julie, was there ever a point in your adult life where you're in the church and you can tell Meggan's left, you love her, she was an important big sister to you that really tried to show love and care for you? This is like no Mormons ever do this ever. I'm exaggerating. Where you just call her up and say, hey, it's been a long time. I love you. I miss you. I miss you at family events. And I see you've left the church and I still believe, but I'm just dying to know what happened. Why did you leave? What issues did you face? Because I care about you. I just want to, I'm laughing to myself because this is like the most obvious thing that any family member could ever ask.
Yes.
And it's the one thing that Mormons literally never do, right?
Never.
So why didn't you call up Meggan and say, I love you, I miss you. Why did you leave the church? Why are you leaving the family? Come back to family reunions. I want you back in my life. And why did you leave the church? Because even if I believe it and don't want to leave, I want to understand you because I love you and why you would choose to leave. Why didn't you ever make that phone call?
Because I needed my temple recommend.
What do you mean by
There's the question that says, like, do you associate with an anti-Mormon? Something along the lines of
that?
that.
I think the church took that out, but it was there when you were,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I had talked to her in any way, shape, or form, or even my brother that had left, then I wouldn't be able to answer the question. I would have to say, like, yes, I do talk to someone who's anti-Mormon. I thought my temple recommend would get taken from me, and that's what makes you worthy. That's what gets you into heaven. That's what gives you celestial glory. Like, I couldn't risk that.
Yeah.
So,
and even though the
never
church
did.
has since taken that out of the temple recommend, the cultural non-practice of actually asking Mormons why they left the church, it's one of the most predictable things. It's like the sun rises, the rooster crows. A faithful Mormon is never going to ask a family member why they left the church.
no. And that was why I did not. It's just too scary. There's too much, like,
Too
on
much
the
to
line.
risk,
Yeah,
right?
there's too much risk.
It could blow up your marriage. It could blow up your,
Yes.
your job. It could blow up your friends, your
Everything.
community, everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just never ask.
Never.
Did you ever want, Meggan, a family member to just call and say, what happened? Well, what are you feeling? What did you experience?
I didn't necessarily want them or need them to ask about why I left the church. I would have loved it if someone had just called and said, wow, I had a hard day today. I mean, just something that simple.
To
Or they're
connect-
sharing with,
to
where they're
connect
sharing
with
with you.
Yes, where they are trying to be vulnerable in any way.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, I just wanted them to call to ask if you were okay, if I was okay, you were okay. But you're saying even if they were just expressing a vulnerability, you would have been
if
thrilled.
they had done that, it would have been like a little signal that we can be honest. Something so simple. And those were the kind of conversations I would try to have with my mom. And because I was so desperate to build some sort of relationship with her but they didn't happen.
Yeah, it almost can say, how you were asking that question around the religion, the religious piece. The same can be said for the family system piece. Like, would anyone ever have reached out when you disappeared from the family reunions and the family, or when the rumors are going around and they're like, wait a second, like, actually I had a good experience with Meggan, or to disrupt whatever narrative was going on, and call you up and say, hey, actually, what is going on with you? How are you? And, tell it like it is. I kind of want to just connect and know you in this moment. And it's because it's the same conditioning that exists for the religious piece exists oftentimes in family systems, especially when they're incredibly enmeshed like that, which is why like moving away or creating a little bit of distance, I think, allows for a different type of seeing. But like the same can be said kind of like the family system question around, did you ever wish someone just called up and said, how are you? I'm hearing this, but I want to know the truth about
Right.
you.
Well,
And
I had
what you think and why purple hair is okay. I'd love to know.
Yes. Well, and I was a Relief Society president when I had purple hair.
Yeah.
So it worked in my mind, but yeah, no one ever asked me any of that. And after I sent out the big email saying my marriage is hard and we're going to therapy, any person in my family calling up and saying I'm experiencing something similar, because I have siblings with marriages that were really hard, marriages that have ended, but we never talked about it. And I tried to get that ball rolling. I tried to be the first one who came out and said, it's okay to have all of the emotions. It's okay to be really happy and it's okay to be really sad. I really tried to model that, and it was not received.
No, because I remember when I got that email, it's like, what the heck?
What was the email?
She just sent that email that she sent saying like, my marriage is hard. I'm having a tough time. And she was really vulnerable in it.
To like the whole family?
To the whole family. And I was just like, why is she even sending that? I didn't even
Does not
understand.
You're like, does not compute.
Does not compute.
No
Does not
language.
compute.
Do
That's
not
a little
understand what is happening.
TMI. Yeah.
Yeah. Mormons are afraid of vulnerability. They're terrified.
That's not
of
even a word in the vocabulary.
Yeah.
You can't, isn't there like a dictionary somewhere? Like in the, that word wasn't in there in the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
It's not in the Bible dictionary.
The Bible dictionary. That's what it was. I'm like, isn't there?
Yeah, because like there are all sorts of reasons why people might not be happy in the church, whether it's getting married too young, the way women might be treated, they might be gay, they might have too many kids, they may not have followed the career they wanted, they just might have normal life things. But like if the gospel is the plan of happiness, and if the gospel is working, then everybody's happy. So you can't talk about not being happy or there being problems, because it's both a sign that you're not being righteous or you'd be happy, or worse, that the plan of happiness isn't making you happy. And that can't be good. So instead, people just don't talk about the sad things oftentimes,
Yeah.
at least in my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that sounds like that was your experience.
100%.
And it's not, to be fair, it's not just in Mormonism,
No.
right? I think it's
Yeah.
a tough thing outside Mormonism too. I think what we're trying to say is that Mormonism can be a bit of an amplifier, right?
I like to say the Mormon story is the human story, because a lot of this is just being human. Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, Meggan, what was it like to be cut off from your family for years and years and years?
There was a constant pull, because not just in Mormonism, right? In society in general, and because that's just how we have evolved, is that family is everything. People say blood before water, which doesn't, that phrase
Blood is thicker than water.
Yeah, blood is thicker than water. That phrase is actually misquoted, because what it's supposed to be is the blood of battle is thicker than the water of the womb. It's supposed to mean that those who you struggle with, those who you are vulnerable with, are the people who you're connected to, who are your family, right? But that's not what I was taught. Family was everything. In Mormonism, families will be together forever. I know it says can, but as a kid, I didn't hear that word. And so to be cut off, I wanted very desperately to be back in the family. And part of that too was that I was seeing the effect that my different parenting style was having on the relationships I had with my kids. And I thought, if I can actually have a relationship with my kids, maybe I can have a relationship with my parents. And so I would tentatively try to talk to my mom. So when the family system really started to fall apart, when I pushed back and then brothers left the church, my parents, to escape all of that, went on a mission.
That's so normal.
Right?
Mormon parents go on missions when their adult kids' lives start falling apart. It's almost an escape.
Yeah.
Or we wouldn't even say falling apart. They start differentiating, individuating, doing things that are very
Maybe leaving the
psychologically beneficial for the kids. But
And they go for other reasons too, but
Right. I think they'd always wanted to serve a mission. But yes, so they went on a mission to New Zealand, and we were in Fairbanks, and my mom FaceTimed us, and I was trying to have some conversations with her, and my dad is just hovering in the background, not saying anything. And I'm nervous because I've not had a good conversation with her in a long time. But there was always that part of me that wanted that validation that I am worthy of love from my parents. And I didn't get it. I still haven't gotten that. So it was hard. It was really, really hard, even with all the supports that I was putting in place for myself. And as much as I was reparenting my kids, it took me a really long time to accept that I may never get that and try to reparent myself. Like there's this movie I was watching, and it was about a husband and wife who had 5 or 6 kids, and they decided to live off grid. And the mom had a lot of mental health issues, and so she ended up in a mental institution a lot, and the dad was in charge of the kids. And he was teaching them to be very rugged, like they killed their own food. And there was this one time he was teaching them how to rock climb, and one of the boys slipped and injured his wrist. And the other kids, they're all hanging on this sheer cliff. They start to come to his rescue, and the dad goes, "Stop." And he looks over at his son and he says, "No one is coming for you. So what are you going to do?" And that was how I finally came to that conclusion that Jesus isn't going to save me. God's not going to save me. My kids aren't going to save me. My dad's not going to save me. So I need to do it. And it's going to be really hard. But I have learned at that point, like I'm telling myself this, I have learned how to be compassionate. And I have never once considered before that point that I could do it for myself. I've learned to do it for everyone else. And even creating that separation, I didn't realize that what I was doing. But in that moment, that movie, I don't even remember what it was called. I thought, oh, I am my savior. And that relationship is the one I've been looking for. Yeah.
So powerful.
Beautiful.
So true. The journey, Mary Oliver. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Love it.
So how many years did you and Julie go without really talking or being in touch, would you guess?
It was 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, we saw each other at that family reunion in 2014. And it was 10 years with no contact.
And in those 10 years, Julie, you had kids?
I did.
How many kids?
I had 3 kids
Okay.
in those 10 years.
And Aunt Meggan never met those kids?
No.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. So she met all 3 of my kids a little over a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going. So you have this experience where you learn no one's coming to save you, where you kind of just accept that there's going to be an extent to which you're alone or can't expect your family to really be there for you. And what? You get an email? Well, I mean, how did
So
what happened?
that was the point where I really started pushing Donnie in our marriage. Like I have been healing since our oldest daughter was 5, and she's graduated from high school now. And these patterns that we are repeating, I'm done doing that. I'm saving myself, and you can come or not. And at this point, whatever you choose, I'm going to be okay with. And so we separated in an in-house separation. We couldn't, Alaska.
This is in Houston. You moved to Houston, right?
This was in Alaska.
Oh, okay.
And it's just ridiculously expensive there. We were both working full-time, making really good money, but we could not afford 2 households. So, and we had a huge house. So we in-house separated for like 8 months. And I thought we were going to get divorced. I was pretty sure it was over. And I was totally okay with it had been so long and so much time. And then Donnie was like, "Oh, I I think I'll like during that same time, he started to finally deconstruct. Like he had stopped going to church, but he hadn't started rooting out all of the patriarchy and the system that he'd been raised in. And during that time, he got a therapist because he wanted to and started changing. And I was real leery about re-engaging with him. But yeah, so about 8 months into that separation, I really wanted to get out of Alaska. It was small and it was cold and it was hard to travel and it's just hard to live there. And so he took a job in Houston or south of Houston and
Missouri City.
Yeah, Missouri City, where they're going to build a new temple. And I agreed to go, even though I really wasn't sure we were going to stay married, because I really just didn't want to separate the kids. I thought, you know what, if we just all go down there, if I need to, I can get my own place. And it was hard because I had a really good job in Fairbanks, and I knew that leaving, Fairbanks is a small town, so the pool is small and you can get better, higher paying jobs without the levels of experience and education maybe that you would somewhere else. So, but I was like, I'm gonna go down to Houston. I don't want to separate the kids. And then Donnie just surprised me in all the best ways. He became the person who he'd always could have been without all the shame of the church, without the shame of, he looked at porn 2 times and I was so nervous to engage, but he just kept showing up and showing up in the vulnerable ways that I had been looking for years. Mm-hmm. And it was super hard on our kids, and it did hurt them a ton during that time. But once Donnie and I had come together, just little baby steps, it felt easier to allow the kids to be mad at me, even though it was really scary, because I had the support in Donnie that I'd never had. And, the church was gone and my family was gone. And then I'd had the kids and they really relied on me. And then they kind of stopped relying on me. And then they were mad at me because, the thought of divorce was there. But we were in Texas and we really started to heal our marriage. Like having those vulnerable conversations, him showing up in ways that he'd never shown up before, not going to anger first, not just going to shame first, because he would just get mired in shame and shut down and drive away and give me the silent treatment. That all changed because he decided to do the work. And it was really, glorious. At that point, I wasn't looking for someone from the family to reach out anymore. I was like, we are nestled in our cozy little 1970s house and our tiny little backyard with our chickens, and Donnie and I are having fun. Like we are finally kind of being teenagers together. Like, we took a dancing class together, and so I was no longer looking. I was no longer looking for that.
That's so powerful. It's almost like Donnie then saved himself. Mm-hmm. He kind of went through something similar. And then so when you came together, it feels like you no longer viewed your life or your relationship like at a deficit. It was like, we're whole. Mm-hmm. We're, Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think you ever arrive.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, that's not it. Like healed.
That's
healed.
Yeah,
thanks. Woo. Glad that's behind me. Yeah,
I did it. I healed.
Yeah, not a thing.
No, but it was okay to not be arrived, and that was a huge deal. That was a huge deal, and I stopped feeling like I needed permission from him to be a whole person. And he didn't need permission from me to be a whole person.
Yeah, that's so big.
Mm-hmm. So
love it. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. So Julie, take us back to the steps that led you to finally reach out to Meggan after 10 years.
Yeah. So I had to leave the church first.
So talk to us. So let's rewind. Let's go back in the time machine. Let's rewind.
Yes.
And tell us when, I guess, the cracks started developing in your Mormon faith? What?
Yeah, it went very fast.
Okay.
So January of 2020.
Okay, so this is 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
My husband surprised me and said,
6 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just said, I don't believe in the church. I don't think it's true. It's
Okay.
like, what? And I had this weird calm about it where I was like, you know what? That's okay. I've kind of always known you weren't super in. We'll just figure it out. And that for him was a turning point because he'd been hiding it for so long that he didn't believe. And so
he hid years without telling you?
Never believed it was true.
See, again, that's just such a mind-blowing Mormon thing where a spouse can go years, if not decades, not believing in the church, but pretending that they do and never telling their spouse. That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
For a church that says family is the most important thing.
Right.
Right?
So it's just, yeah.
It shows that church is more important than family in Mormonism.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So he told me that and he said, I'll still support you. I will still come to church. But then COVID happened.
Wasn't he worried you would leave him?
Yes.
So, I mean, that maybe miscommunicates what he was probably feeling, because he was probably feeling terrified that you would leave him.
Yes, he was. But I was like, I think we can make this different faith marriage work.
Yeah.
You know, and I was so righteous at that point too. But the problem was he left the church and started healing and he started becoming happier. That was really confusing to me.
Because wickedness never was happiness.
But then it was. It's like, why is he happy? And so he had read a book called Unveiling Grace. And on the front of the book, there's an upside down temple. And he just left it sitting on our coffee table.
This is about an evangelical, this is about a BYU professor
Yes.
who leaves being a BYU professor and the church and becomes an evangelical Christian, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the book. And he just left it sitting on the coffee table. And I wasn't going to touch it because it was obviously satanic. The temple's upside down, right? And then I just had the thought in September of that year, I was like, I'm a pretty smart person. I feel like I could read this book and then I could just decide for myself. Because maybe I want to just understand what Dusty's going through. And so I cracked open the book one day. And in the first chapter, I was like, oh no, I don't know. Is this really what the church teaches? So I read the whole book in a couple days, and then I spiraled down in a good way. Like I was waking up at 4 a.m. because I was like, hang on, what does the church say about polygamy? Like, what is the real truth behind the polygamy? And so I researched that and found all the things. And then the book of Abraham, and it was really fast. So from the moment I read that book to where I was like, the church is not true, it was 2 weeks.
Whoa.
Super fast.
And this was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm talking like 4 to 5 a.m. every day until I went to bed.
We call that the rabbit hole.
That's what I did. I went down the rabbit hole. And there, even at the end, I was like, but there's so many temples. And then the other side of me was like, but it doesn't mean it's true. I'm like, but so many people believe it. It's like, that still doesn't make it true. I'm like, but people have died for it. And it was like, but that still doesn't make it true.
That take logic is terrible.
Yeah. And the final thought was like, well, why would he do it? And the thought I had was
Meaning
because
Joseph. Why would Joseph
why would
do it?
Joseph Smith make all this up? And it was like, because he wanted the power and glory of men. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, it's not true. And then my next thought, because I had 2 boys at this time, I was like, I don't have to send them on missions. Like that was the immediate next thought.
So that was your authentic self. Didn't want your kids to go on missions.
No.
But you didn't know that.
Like I knew that I wanted them to go, but I wanted them to want to go. And I didn't want them to have a bad experience. You know, it's like I wanted them to be righteous, and it was a conflicting thing for me. So when I found out I was pregnant with my first son, that was my first worry. It's like, oh no, he's a boy. He's going to have all those responsibilities in the church. He's going to have to go on a mission. But what if he doesn't want to? So yes, and it was just a huge weight lifted.
Wow. So you fully lost your faith 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it wasn't 6 years ago that you reached out to Meggan.
No. So I still had to deconstruct so much of it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was still like,
Can I just say, I'll interrupt just for a second.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to interrupt, but like I know Chelsea Homer's a friend of mine. She has a twin sister, right? They're biological twins.
yeah.
Because Chelsea was married to my friend Nick, and Nick left the church after Chelsea and Nick got married, and then that caused Chelsea to question, then Chelsea left the church. That drove a wedge between Chelsea Homer and her biological twin sister. And so there was a wedge between them, and then Chelsea's sister eventually starts questioning the church.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that a biological twin that grew up doing everything with their twin for a couple decades, the first thing that she'd do when she started questioning the church would be what?
I know. Contact the sister.
And yet she didn't. She went through, Chelsea's sister went through her full faith crisis to the point of leaving the church. And then I think there was even more time after that before she ever ended up reaching out to her sister. And I think part of it was like, I don't want to admit I was wrong, or I'm embarrassed that now I realize they were right and I mistreated them for so long, something. But it's just mind blowing that even 6 years ago, as you fully lose your faith,
Yeah.
you're not immediately calling Meggan,
No.
right?
No, I was like hanging on at that point too. I was like, what's true? What's even real anymore? You know?
Well, it does make sense in the sense that Meggan was villainized.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to reach out to,
Yeah.
you know, the sibling that. And then I also hear, like, for some
Sibling
people,
the what? Finish that sentence. You're not gonna reach out to
the sibling that has been deemed less valuable in the family
problematic,
system, or
yeah.
problematic,
Yeah.
or unrighteous, or right. And I also think sometimes you want to have your own journey with it,
Right.
and
That's
you
another
don't,
thing. Yeah.
especially for people that can go both ways. But if you love the sibling, you don't want the sibling that's out to be blamed for taking you out, or like, it's so complicated with how this affects families and relationships. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to unconditionally love before I could ever realize that I could even call her. Right. Because if you have conditional love, which is what I knew at that point in time, why would I contact the villain sister? You know, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I was I was out of the church, deconstructing all of that stuff. And then years went by when I was like, okay, I'm feeling like I'm in a mentally healthy place now. And that's when I started realizing there was just toxicity in the family. And
So you start questioning the family system after
Yeah.
you lost your Mormon faith.
years after, where I was like, something just doesn't feel right here too, because I'd also started going to therapy and started talking about things,
That
you know?
is a slippery
Super
slope.
Yeah, therapy is dangerous to Mormon orthodoxy.
Yes.
Yes. And so I was just struggling. I was the people pleaser still. And I was trying to keep the whole family together because I was also the peacemaker. So even after I'd left, I was still trying to do all this. And my therapist one day was like, you need to read this book. It's called But It's Your Family. And I think it's by Dr. Sherry Campbell, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Okay. As I was reading this book, it helped me distance myself from my family because I needed that, but it with love. It was like, I'm doing this because I love them, but also I love myself. And that was the first time I'd really started realizing it's good. It's a really good thing to love yourself.
yeah.
And in that book, the author, Sherry, she was the scapegoat of the family. And so she was really honest in this book of what she had to go through. And I started seeing Meggan. And I started the light bulbs were coming on where I'm like, wait, this was the Meggan I knew in high school. But then the family said these things about her, but those were actually not true. And so then I started going through my many journals, and I'd already had a document that I was never planning on sending Meggan that just had excerpts from my journal of things that she had done for me when I was a kid. But now I was really diving in, trying to understand like the childhood trauma and just the things I went through when I was younger. And when I finished that book, I was like, I have to tell Meggan that she is like a special person. Do you know that?
What, you made a list of what?
Yeah. So there was journal entries like, how special she made me feel when she threw the surprise party for me. Whenever I kind of go back and I'm trying to heal from childhood stuff, Meggan was the one really safe person for me. And I knew that she needed to know that she meant something to somebody in the family. I had no intention of having a relationship with her. I did not think she would contact me back. And so I wasn't doing it trying to bring her into the family. I was just like, she needs to know that she's worthy and that I love her and that I loved and really appreciated all the things she did for me. And so, yeah, I didn't even know where she lived. I didn't know if she was married.
Wild.
Yeah, so I'm like Googling her name.
You didn't know if she was married? Oh, still married.
Still married.
Oh,
right. Like, is she still married? So is her name Hayes or is it something else now? Like, I did not know.
Dang, how'd you find her?
So she had an Etsy account that was like inactive. She hadn't sold anything in years, but that was all I had.
Thank you, social media.
Yeah, so I had this super duper long email that I sent to her just with like I said, no expectation of her contacting me. And it was like 10 minutes later, she called me.
Wow.
Do you feel like reading what you wrote to her? Because I think that might be kind of powerful.
Yes. Is the screen too high or is that all right?
No, you're good. Yeah.
Okay. So it says, Meggan, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being such a great sister to me when I couldn't be there for myself. I have been learning to heal from my past hurts and traumas, and it has led me to begin reading my many journals from my childhood. You're in there a lot, and I forgot how much you were there for me. I forgot how much you helped me feel loved and seen. You were there for me when nobody else was. I'm not reaching out to you for any reason except to say thank you for being such a great sister to me when nobody else was there for me. And then I could do on a few of the journal entries. All right, so here's one. June 29th, 2001, you made my 16th birthday the best day of my childhood. It was pages long, but basically you threw me my first surprise party when I turned 16 and made me the center of attention. I wrote, I had always dreamed of what a surprise party would be like, and now I know. Reading about all you did for me made that day very special and incredible. January 22, in 2002, when I got home, Meggan called and said she's having a party at her house on Friday. I asked her what for, and she said, for me and my friends. Meggan, you knew the pain I was going through while still living at home, and you thought of me. And then this one right here said, this thought is from me the last couple of months. You keep coming up in my healing journey. So this was August 2024. I said, I realized that you were my safety growing up. I really didn't feel safe many places, not really at home, not really at school. Most of my memories of feeling safe involved you. I could trust you. I could talk to you about anything, and I knew I was safe with you. You protected me, and I love you for that. I'm healthier today because of you. You once put in a blog post how your family was dead to you. That hurt me because I thought I was perfect. Why would somebody not want me? But now I see we were absolutely toxic to you. I see it now. You were strong and you left. That had to have been super hard. I understand now, Meggan, you weren't fitting into how our family worked, and that was so unhealthy for you. You were strong. You finally said no to us and yes to yourself. You did what you had to do. I get it now. I'm sorry it took me so long. You were always there for me. You protected me as a child at the expense of you taking the trauma that should have been mine. You protected me from it. You were my safety. You gave that to me when I could not give it to myself. You protected me when you yourself were not protected by anybody. I survived because of you. Meggan, you did not deserve the childhood that you got. You deserved everything because you were always worthy. I love you.
Meggan, how does it feel to hear that?
Well,
and how did it feel to receive that?
Yeah. So
By the way, beautiful.
Oh, that writing. Oof. Beautiful
Thank
letter.
you.
What an amazing
Honestly.
email.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was with Donnie, and we had taken one of our kids on I think it was a Sunday, to a D&D group at the local library and dropped them off. And then we had come back to pick them up, and we were a little early. So we were just sitting in the parking lot, and I was checking my email, and it said I had a message from Etsy. And I was like, Etsy? I don't even remember how to log in. So then I'm going back in my notes and trying to find the password, because it said it was from Julie. And I was like, no way. There's no way. And, Donnie's in the driver's seat, and he's checking his emails. And I finally get logged in, and I read probably just the first 4 or 5 sentences, and I started sobbing. And Donnie has no idea what's going on, because I haven't said what I'm doing. I haven't said I have an email from Julie and I don't know how to log into my Etsy. I'm just checking my email, and then I'm sobbing. And he's like, what's going on? What's going on? And I'm giving him the hold on, because I'm trying to get through the rest of this email. And I have got to the very bottom. I read what you just heard, and I just looked at Donnie and I said, I have a sister. And immediately, I didn't know up until that point what it would take for me to get back in contact in a real way with a sibling. But when I saw it, that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was it. And I just couldn't stop crying. And I just kept saying, I have a sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't even explain to him, because it was so overwhelming, because I had tried for so long to be worthy of having a sister. And a lot of those memories that Julie had, I didn't remember. I mean, I remember wanting her to have the teenage years I didn't have, but she was reminding me of things that I didn't remember.
Yeah.
Or blocked out.
Yeah. Yes. And so, it was sunny, and we're sitting in this mostly empty library parking lot. And that's when I got my sister.
Yeah. She called me, and that's what she said. She was like, I have a sister back. And it almost scared me, because she was so vulnerable. That's what that said to me. It was like, how does she trust me? She doesn't even know me. But it was like, I saw what real vulnerability was.
Yeah.
So.
What was that first phone call like?
It was weird. Like, her voice sounded weird. It almost felt like it was a dream, a little bit surreal. I was like, am I talking to Meggan? Like, she called me. She wants to know me. Like, it was unreal.
Mm-hmm. And I was trying not to just dump 10 years worth of stuff, because I was ready.
Yeah,
I was ready for a sister.
Yeah.
I was like, take it slow.
Don't scare her.
Do not scare her. But her email had been so vulnerable and so real, and said so many things that I knew in my heart. And I just wanted to be like, here's what I've been doing, and here's where my marriage is, and here's what my kids are doing. And I just, I had to like slow down. Let's just start with the basics. Yes, I'm still married.
Yes.
And this is 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was like October of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so like a year and a half?
Yeah,
So the
not
first
even.
time that we actually saw each other was after Christmas of 2024.
Wow.
So just a little over a year.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how has the lived experience of having this relationship been?
I mean, she's been through more years of healing. So when I'm struggling with like a parenting thing, I call her. You know, like if I'm feeling shame, she's like, you're feeling shame because you're feeling your own shame as if you had made that mistake when you're a child.
Mm-hmm.
But it's your child making that. And it's okay to feel, and it's okay to not know what you're doing with this parenting, but you can talk to your kids. you can have conversations. Like she's talked to me a lot of times about just simple parenting things where I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
I'm screwing up my kids. They're going to need therapy someday. You know?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, they will.
I do think, particularly around perfectionism, right? And then being a parent. And if you haven't really processed, you know, that in yourself, and it can feel so counterintuitive to recognize that you make mistakes. And
Yes.
wow, mommy really shouldn't have done that, you know? And here's what I wish I had done, or here's what or whatever, right? This recognition, especially when you literally have no model for that. You don't know the words. You don't know what it looks like. You don't know, you know, kind of what it means. So I can really see that, and what a resource now that you have
Yes.
in each other.
Even just to have a friend, like if a good thing happens, I have someone that I can call now and just say like, this is great and it happened. And I have someone to share it with, because I never had a real relationship the whole time I was in the church because nobody was vulnerable. But then with Meggan, she was so vulnerable, and we were able to start building a real relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that's occurring to me that's important to explore, I think, we talked about, I talked about Chelsea, Homer, and her sister, and talked about how long it took you to call even after you lost your faith, years. Isn't there a sense of betrayal that you feel if the whole family system's been set up with parents and other siblings, that Meggan is the bad one? To reconcile with Meggan could be perceived as a betrayal of you betraying the entire rest of your family that either is still faithful to the church and or has made her the bad person and the black sheep. I would imagine you might be feeling feelings or thoughts of betrayal in reconciling with your sister. Is that right? I don't mean to project that on you, but
yes, there was that worry a little bit, but also I'd learned to start loving myself. And once you fully love yourself, you don't need somebody else to. It's nice. Like, it's nice when you still are accepted and loved by someone else, but you don't need it. And so that's how it was for me. It was like, I know that this might change relationships with people in my family, but that's okay, because she needs to know that, I love her. She deserves to know that. So I don't think even everyone in the family knows yet. Like the ones that I talk to,
they may know now.
They're going to know now, but there's still a handful that probably have no idea that we are even in contact with each other.
Right.
Yeah, and I still talk to most everyone in my family except just a couple of siblings.
I do think, too, your letter was just really something. And you can tell there were years of therapy, that a whole lot, and that's what I think you felt when you read it, right? There was just so much work that you had done before that letter. And I wonder, too, if that's what helps you, because that feeling of betrayal, when you don't understand where it came from, right, and your own family system, you might be manipulated by a feeling of that. But once you understand that the betrayal is the indicator of an unhealthy family system,
yes,
it has less power over you. It just becomes like this symptom that you're like, oh, of course that's there. That's part of how I was raised. That's part of how it all worked.
Yes.
But if a healthy family system allows for individuation, it allows for differing opinions, it allows for, right, different, is that right? Like, that's how I've experienced it. But is that how, did betrayal come up, and is part of the reason too, because of all the therapy and your learning around like what a healthy family system actually, how it works? Yeah,
that's what it was. I just started healing and learning what a healthy family system should be, so it's like maybe there was betrayal there, but honestly, it's like I still, even right now, I can think of my parents and I love them, and it's okay if they don't love me. Like, I still am just going to love them for who they are, because they deserve that too. So even if they even feel betrayed by what I've done, I'm okay with that. But I'm still going to love them. They cannot like me, and I'm still going to love my family, and that's okay. You know, I don't know if that's exactly what you were going for, but that's just maybe how I'm feeling about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we end, I have a question. So 14 siblings. What's the count on siblings leaving the church? And do you have any interesting stories about what it was like? Do your siblings know now, Julie, that you left? And do you have any funny stories about that?
Yeah, so I was the 7th one to leave. I marked the halfway point, and I was so scared to tell anyone because I left in September of 2020, and we wanted to start going to a non-denominational Christian church just to kind of figure out things, figure out life. And I was so scared that my parents would find out that I had to make sure I was at home, and then I would turn off my location services.
Okay, wait.
home.
So you're an adult?
Yes.
And your parents have your location?
I was 36 and I was so afraid. So I would turn it off before I went to the church because I was nervous to wait.
To a Christian church.
To a Christian church. Yes.
You're not going to a bar. You're not going to a strip club.
I'm going to church, but just not the right one. And even then, it still took me until a year ago to realize that I could set a boundary there. I didn't know what boundaries were. And so I was at Meggan's house the first time I'd visited her in 2025. And I was sitting at her kitchen table and I got a text from my mom, who's not in contact with Meggan, that says, I hadn't told anyone in the family, not a single person, that we were still in contact. And it was like, I see that you're with Meggan. Tell her I love her. Like, that's so sweet of you to do that.
What? And I mean, was that passive aggressive? Was it sort of like really saying, how dare you be with Meggan? Or
I don't know what
she could have very well reached out to Meggan, right?
Right.
She didn't.
It was really confusing for me, but then that's when I started talking to my therapist and realized that boundaries, that's a word, and that's something that exists, and that's probably something that I should not be worried of turning my location services off when I'm a 36-year-old adult.
Let alone them having your location at all.
Actually, when I was at your house, I think I was like 38. Yeah, so either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so weird for a mom to say, tell her I love her when she hasn't been in contact with you.
No, and she knows she can contact me. She doesn't have my phone number, but she's always had my email, and she has emailed me over the years.
Yeah.
And so, it's strange. She did send me a birthday card after we'd moved to Texas. We didn't tell her we moved there, but I'm assuming she just, found out through the grapevine or whatever. And she sent me a birthday card, and on the front it said, even though we don't see each other often.
Meaning at all.
She crossed out often and put ever.
Oh my goodness.
And then on the inside was a letter just about, the family's great. And
right.
I mean, what's hard is it's probably really hard for your mom and your dad, right? I mean,
100%.
She's probably tortured over this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know how to unconditionally love. And it's not her fault. It's not any of their fault, right? She just doesn't know. So she's reaching out in the only way that she knows how to do it.
Right.
Yes.
So there is something for that, but
she's probably afraid she'll lose her faith, and maybe that would hurt her marriage and be a bad example for all the other kids. I mean, I'm projecting or guessing, speculating, but
I don't know if she's afraid she'll lose her faith. I really just think it is what she knows. And that's, of course, I was very hurt. And of course, I was very angry when the separations were happening and I was pushing back or I was trying to offer information and it wasn't being received well. But I am at a place now where I have the relationships that are healthy and beautiful. And from that safe space, I can have a lot of compassion for her. And it's harder for me with my dad, but there are times when I can see him as a child just reaching out and wanting to feel the same things that we all want to feel. And right now, they're getting that in the church, and that's okay. And there may be a time in the future that I reconnect with them in a way where I can stay true to myself, where I don't betray myself and allow them to be who they are.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Julie, did your leaving the church affect your relationship with your parents? And if so, is there anything you want to say about that?
So it was really hard for my dad on that first year when he had found out. He had a really hard time giving me any sort of eye contact. And that was hard, but at the same time, I was learning how to heal and learning how to love. And so just like Meggan was saying, how she could picture him as a child, that's how I see him now. I see him as an 8-year-old boy that's just really scared. And he just wants to be loved, but he doesn't know how to get it. And because I can see him that way, I do have a lot of compassion and love for him still. So I do still see my parents, and I interact, like I saw them just a few days ago, but the relationship will never, I won't say never, but as of right now, and pretty much my whole life, it's just felt very surface. And so, but that's what they have to offer. And so if I want them to accept me for who I am, should I not accept them for who they are? Right? It needs to go both ways. So I was angry for a while that they weren't accepting me, but then I realized I was not accepting them. So I have kind of changed my attitude towards that. And it is still hard because they do sometimes take temple attendance over watching my kids, being with their grandkids, they're awesome kids and they're missing out to be with people in the temple who are dead. When I have kids who are alive, like right here, and want them, they love their grandparents and they want them in their life, So yeah, they're still in my life, and it's in a way that feels safe and it feels good for me.
All right. Well, I'll just call it and say that I think this is close to a perfect Mormon Stories episode. And I'm going to do something I would normally never do, but we're in a really difficult spot right now with the podcast. And so y'all are going to have to forgive me that I'm just going to do this. So because I think this is like close to a perfect Mormon Stories podcast. And what I mean by that is I would say our number one driver since the beginning of Mormon Stories podcast has been to bring family together, not tear family apart, and to help people through their faith journeys, to help them see the church and their world more clearly, and then to try and heal families. But we're in the situation now where the Mormon Church is suing us, claiming that we are intentionally trying to deceive people, fool them, that this podcast is owned and run by the church, and that our motives are to cause people to lose their faith and to break up families and to tear families apart. Just the most horrible accusations, I believe, to destroy my reputation and the reputation of the podcast. There's a campaign going on by the church, in my opinion, to do this. And we're being sued by a hundreds of billions of dollar corporation when we're a 2-employee nonprofit. So I have a couple of favors to ask all of you. If you enjoyed this episode and if you feel like it represents, like I do, the Best of Mormon Stories podcast, because we're trying to raise money to protect ourselves from a hundreds of billions of dollar corporation that it appears like they're trying to destroy us and bankrupt us. If you want to support Mormon Stories and our legal fund, you can go to mormonstories.org/legal and support us. But no problems if you don't want to. I also want you all to go to the Generally Unquotable TikTok channel or Instagram or YouTube channel, because we haven't really focused on this. But Meggan, you run a super cool channel where you provide a daily news update of Mormon news. And I think it's one of the best things on the Mormon internet. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Thank you for the compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do 10 to 20 minute Mormon news updates, but I bring in a lot of this stuff that I've been talking about, because deconstructing the church, like if I look at a news article and they came out with the new young women names, right? I can talk about the language that they use around that and how I perceived it as an active member, or would have perceived it as an active member, and how I perceive it now, because it's still helpful for me to look at what's going on in Mormonism and make my own thoughts about it, talk about a healthy viewpoint. And, sometimes I do feel those intense emotions, anger or sadness, but being able to process that in a healthy way and have all those emotions. And then I put it on YouTube, and I hope, and I have seen feedback that people are deconstructing with me now, because I've done all of this healing, and I actually didn't come into the space on purpose. I never, ever thought I would be an ex-Mormon social media personality person at all. It just happened. And so it has morphed into this space where, yes, I talk about the news, but I don't just present, here is, what was on the church news. It's elder so-and-so went here and this is what they said. Let's talk about why that might make me uncomfortable as an ex-Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really, really valuable to me. And I'm very passionate about it. I've been a graphic designer for 20 years, and I was never as passionate about that as I am about this, because, I listened to Mormon stories, all the episodes. I think the most valuable ones to me were the ones that were similar to the story we just told, but also The Gift of the Mormon Faith Crisis, that series that gave me a lot of the language that I can use now to help separate myself from the church still. And I really want other people to have that, because this I was no longer looking for, and honestly didn't know if it was possible. And it is. People can heal and come together in a vulnerable space. Julie and I, we don't agree on everything, but we love each other so much in a way that allows space for all of that. Like, we can be silly, and we can be sad, and we haven't been upset with each other.
No.
Maybe we will someday, but it's okay if we don't. But to talk about those types of feelings, and it's all okay. And if I can go on my channel and I can talk about one news story, and I can present how I deconstructed it, and one person can feel the safety that I feel now in my relationship with Donnie and my relationship with Julie, then it's totally worth it.
And let's just address it. You talk about deconstruction. Does that mean that your intent with Generally Unquotable is to take people out of the Mormon church or cause them to lose their faith? Because that's what people are trying to say Mormon Stories is about. Even though from 2005 on, I've been consistently believing and saying that that's never my intent. Is that your intent?
No.
Why not?
My intent is for people to trust themselves, to learn in whatever way they need to. I know what my process looked like, that I am blessed with a soul and a body that I can love and care for. And if nobody else loves and cares for my soul, I can do that for me. And it is awesome when other people join me in that space. So even people will say in my comments, if I'm breaking down a video from an apologist that's pretty harsh, they'll be like, how do you stay so calm? And a lot of it is that I get angry when apologists say things that I don't think are true. I was very angry when I saw that the lawsuit came out and the way that it was presented, because I am keeping up with Mormon news, and I understood that it didn't seem like they were being honest. I was really mad. But if I came online and I presented that and told everyone they should leave the church, That wouldn't even be realistic or helpful. Because if someone can stay in the church, but they can have the relationship that Donnie and I have and that Julie and I have, then stay there. That was not possible for me. But if you can have this relationship and Mormonism can be part of it, then do that. Do that. Understand that. Understand that that's what you're doing. Make that conscious choice. Yes, please. So the news does bother me, but I try to come at it in a way that everyone who listens can decide for themselves, is this what I want? And how am I going to show up in that space? How am I going to show up at church, or how am I going to show up when I'm not at church? Definitely not to take people out, because it's really hard.
Yeah, no, few people who have really been through leaving a high demand religion or cult like Mormonism would ever wish that experience on anyone. Mm-hmm. At the same time, how can we not do what we can to help people through the process?
Yeah.
Because so many people are going to go through it. Really quickly, Julie, is it your intent in doing today's interview to take people out of the church?
No, I just want people to learn how to love themselves. That's what it is. For me, I had to leave in order to find that. But that's not everybody's experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Well, any final thing any of you want to say? This has been perfect and beautiful. I didn't mean to cut it off, but also when we go too long, less people watch. So
yeah.
Because you're the youngest, Julie, I'll let you go first. Any final messages you want to share with our audience before we go?
Nothing. Yeah.
No?
That was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you happy?
I am happy.
I just want to say kudos to you for having the courage and the love and the kindness and the compassion to reconnect with your sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to tell that story publicly.
Right. Right.
Because in some sense you eat a little bit of crow, I guess, humble pie when you tell the story, right?
Yeah. I mean, that I will say, like, speaking up and sharing any of this is very hard for me because I was the one that became quiet and unseen. Mm-hmm. So even being on this is allowing myself to be seen. So that's really hard for me, but I knew it was important because there are people going through hard things and they need to be validated. They need to know they're not alone.
Yes.
So
I think you mentioned at dinner last night that this is also part of you finding your voice or using your voice.
Yes. Because
which is part of your healing.
That is part of my healing, is knowing that, like, oh, I can speak up and I can speak my mind. I can have my own opinion because I didn't know that for a long time.
That's right.
So
it's kind of like oftentimes the being quiet or it feels like safety. Right?
Yes. Yep.
But the moment you choose to be visible, that is the healing. That is you saying, and I, deserve to be seen with, people who will honor you for it.
Yes. I don't need to be small.
That's right.
Anymore. I don't need to be small and unseen. And in fact, that's hurting me from being the person that I was born to be.
Yes. And yeah. And it disrupts or is a barrier to you being truly known and to being loved.
Yes.
Because it's very hard to be actually loved if you're invisible.
Right.
If that person never actually
don't
sees
get
you,
seen.
knows
Yeah.
what you think about that thing, especially if it's different from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this
I
was,
honor that.
I mean, I told you the story about not wanting to speak at seminary graduation. So speaking up is very hard and scary, but this is important.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Meggan, you get the last word because you're the oldest sister.
Yeah, I was the middle child, remember?
Well, in this dyad.
I would echo a lot of what Julie said in her message, that whoever you are that's listening, you are worthy because you exist. And you deserve to know that. And wherever you have to go to learn that you are worthy just for existing, go there. Go there. And the people who see you in that journey and want to join you, they will.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you'll have a sister.
Yeah.
And it's even consistent with
beautiful.
Jesus, because Jesus said the kingdom of God is within.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said to be born again. Sounds like y'all are born again,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the you found the kingdom within you.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah?
This,
Perfect way to put it.
this relationship is absolutely sacred
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
We feel that from you.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right, Margie, I told Meggan she could have the last word, but you have a last word.
Just all the love to you. Thank you
Mhm.
for
Thank
being
you.
willing to come on and for sharing. And what a privilege it's been to witness and hear it. So thanks.
Mhm. Thanks for inviting us. It was really, awesome. Very validating and, like I said, sacred. It's a sacred space when people show up as themselves.
And how can people financially support Generally Unquotable?
Oh, watch my videos on YouTube. That is the one place that I get ad revenue.
Okay.
Sorry about the ads, but just, I'm pretty small at this point. And I did, because of a lot of peer pressure, start a Patreon. So you can look up Generally Unquotable on Patreon.
That's great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Support our creators or they'll get sued into oblivion and go away.
Right?
Although you were smart enough, or I don't know, you didn't use the word Mormon.
I didn't. It wasn't because I was being forward thinking. I was thinking very deep about that. And yes.
I don't want to make it sound like it was unsmart of me to use Mormon.
No, it
because
wasn't.
The church didn't care.
No. Yeah.
Anyway, support Generally Unquotable. It's great content, and we need to support our creators.
I agree.
Yeah.
We, if any time, now is the time that we need to come together as people who care about Mormonism as a whole.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Well, O'Neill sisters, thank you for coming on Mormon Stories. It's been amazing.
Yep.
And Margie, it's been great to have you.
Yes, my pleasure.
And thanks for joining us today on Mormon Stories. Thanks to our donors that make all this possible. If you're just a regular old donor or a regular donor, we thank you. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you. We survived because of you. So thanks to everyone who makes this possible. If you're not a donor and you are in a position to be able to support us, we always live and die by our donors. So please go to mormonstories.org/donate and you can become a monthly donor. If you want to see this content continue, or if you just want to pay it forward and if you're grateful for it. Again, we're getting sued by the Mormon Church. And if you want to support our legal fund, you can go to mormonstories.org/legal and support us. So thanks for that. And we love your emails. So you can email us at mormonstories@gmail.com with feedback. Even if you can't afford to support us financially, you can support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, commenting, liking, sharing. All that stuff helps with the algorithm. So please do that if you can. But mostly we hope you just enjoy this content. If you want to be on Mormon Stories, it's pretty easy. You just go to mormonstories.org/apply and you fill out a little form, send in a 3-minute video. Margie and I review it. And what we're looking for are stories that our audience will feel uplifted by and will feel like it's a valuable contribution to the library. It helps to be a listener and a viewer like Meggan. How many hours of Mormon Stories have you listened to? Probably
hours? I don't know, but how many episodes are there?
I mean, there's 2,300 or 2,100, something like that.
I'm a few episodes behind, but many hours.
So 10,000 hours you've listened to Mormon Stories.
So
I mean,
doesn't that make me
I owe you like 3 cheeseburgers, 4 steak dinners, 8 ice creams,
a couple of pizza parties.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I mean, the way y'all present yourself shows that you can communicate in a way our audience is going to find valuable. And so people are always, why didn't I get accepted? And how do I get accepted? The more you can show that you understand our audience and who we are and how your episode will be a valuable contribution to our listenership, that's kind of how Margie and I try to decide. Is that right, Margie?
Yes.
And I'm going to say there are only a finite amount of
Yeah.
slots. And
You could be perfect.
so that's right. And we appreciate all the submissions. I view everyone. And so.
Yeah. Because we get about 1,000 applications a year. So and we can only accept 50. So even if you have the perfect application, it's a long shot, but do it anyway, because we want and need the best stories. And so please apply. Anyway, that's it. Never let religion tear your family apart. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And we'll see you all again soon on another episode of Mormon Stories Podcast. Take care, everybody.